Good morning. It's another installment of the Bat Around coming to you live from our Press Box Studios here in beautiful Baltimore, Maryland. A little bit chilly outside today, but I can deal with it because I'm headed down to Florida on Thursday where it's going to be in the mid to upper 80s. Turn yourself down, sir. Where it's going to be in the mid to upper 80s all 4 days that I'm there. We're having an issue on WavePad. It's not picking up anything.
You were correct. Let me fix that.
There's a record button, I think, and you can go up there and you can change it. In the meantime, Let's try this again. In the meantime, welcome to the Bat Around. Today's show is brought to you by the CIAA Tournament. Today is Championship Saturday at the CIAA Tournament. The CIAA is an event that has become a celebration of family, culture, and accomplishments to uplift and strengthen the African-American community. Zach, I'll get it. See the excitement of the title games in person as some of the best college basketball goes down at Baltimore's Royal Farms Arena with the CIAA Men's and Women's Conference Tournament Championship games. Get your tickets now at CIAAtournament.org. That's CIAAtournament.org. Zach, how are you today?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm well.
Yeah, I've enjoyed some college baseball these past few weeks, kind of filling the void a little bit of missing out on Major League Baseball right now. I was just telling you before the show that I'm incredibly tired of hearing about the CBA, tired of talking about the CBA, everything associated with it. I'm tired of. So maybe college baseball can fill that void for you. I don't know if you're as a big of a fan of it as I am, but it's a lot of fun to watch, and there's some good teams in this area right now, specifically Maryland being one of them. So there's some fun baseball to watch at the moment when it's not Major League Baseball or minor league baseball, which we should have minor league baseball soon though.
Yeah,
so that's good.
The problem for me with college baseball, wow. I was literally about to clear my throat, and then my voice cracked. The problem for me with college baseball, I love college baseball.
Yeah,
I'm always working when the games are being played.
Well, you can watch them if you go to ESPN Plus, you can watch the recordings of them. So
really?
You can watch them on demand.
I've been trying to find ways, because you can kind of see Maryland getting better year after year after year. So for the last 2-3 years, I've been trying to find ways to watch Maryland college baseball.
Yeah. And
I'm like, where are these games? They're nowhere. So I've just been kind of following along on my Twitter timeline.
Sure.
But now that you tell me I can watch on ESPN Plus, they're playing today, right?
They play all the time. So I think they're on a road trip right now. Yeah, I think they're playing today.
Okay. I might have to check that game out today.
They're on the
road. We have to check out college baseball. We have to check out the minor leagues. Minor league spring training beginning on Monday, February the 28th, because there's nothing going on in baseball.
Yeah.
These two sides have. Okay. I am so freaking tired.
I'm tired of hearing about it.
Of this crap.
Yeah,
I'm so tired. At this point, I don't care what deal happens. I don't care if the player salaries go down to $100,000 a year. I don't care if the major league owners get $8 billion a team in revenue. I don't care what happens.
Sure.
Get it the hell done. First of all, it shouldn't have taken you nearly 3 months. Or it shouldn't have taken you 2.5 months to get to daily meetings.
Yeah.
Where was the sense of urgency? And now you're meeting every day, and it looks good because the peripherals are good because you're meeting for hours on end.
Yeah.
But it's really an hour meeting with the two sides. Then they go back and caucus with their own sides for 3 hours, and they meet for 35 minutes, and then they all go home.
Yeah.
Get it done. This is garbage.
Simple.
Get it. Like the deadline. Both of these sides are making threats, right? So the deadline is by Major League Baseball is Monday, the 28th. If a deal isn't done by the end of the day on Monday, the 28th, the season will not start on time. And they're saying,
but that's they're saying that doesn't have to happen, right?
It doesn't, but it's they're trying to puff their chest out. When we were talking about it on GCR the other day, Glenn was saying it's an empty threat. It kind of is, but MLB stated a deadline is a deadline. So if a deal isn't agreed upon by Monday, the schedule will be shortened and players won't be paid for games missed. The players are saying if MLB goes forward with that, they will not agree on expanded playoffs, which would cost the owners over $100 million. Get it figured out. The one thing they did do that they made progress on yesterday was they agreed on a format or on a what's the word on the framework. Excuse me. They agreed on the framework for a draft lottery. So the Major League Baseball Players Association, their first proposal was 8 teams in the draft lottery. Major League Baseball counter-proposed with, if that's a thing, they came back with 3 players. So Major League Baseball then offered 4. The union went down to 7. They basically have agreed now on the framework, and what Major League Baseball is trying to do is they're trying to tie that to the expanded playoffs. They're saying, okay, we will give you, if you give us a 14-team playoff, we will give you your draft lottery. We don't know how many players are there going to be, but that's basically what Major League Baseball is saying right now.
Sure.
So they're still trying to tie something else to something else. None of these negotiations have been in good faith. They keep saying it's in good faith, but they're so far apart. Let's talk a little bit about this collective bargaining tax, which is essentially the luxury tax. The players' union wants it to start out at $245 million as the luxury tax. And if you go over, it is a 20% tax.
Yeah.
If you go over by 20 to 40 million, it's a 32% tax. If you go over by 40 million plus, it's a 62.5% tax. That seems like a lot of money, and it is. It is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball, they don't want to go, the owners don't want to go over $214 million. What they want to do is if you just go over, you're taxed 50%. If you go over by 20 to 40 million, you're taxed 75%.
Okay.
And if you go over by 40 plus million, you're taxed 100%. Now, the union's asking for 245. The league's asking for 214. When I did the math, by asking for 214, but those high percentages, in the second frame and the third frame, you're actually spending way, way more money than the union's asking for. And the reason for that is because the owners don't want to pay the players more.
Right. Sure.
So if they say $214 million, but then we're going to tax the ever-loving shit out of you if you go over, it's going to make teams not spend that kind of money. So they're basically doing it as a way to not spend the money, even though on its surface it doesn't seem like that. That's
roughly what it is. And you've seen the competitive balance, the tax number be around, what, 218, I think it's been in previous years, and 225. Anywhere in that area.
It capped out at 210 last year.
210 was okay.
Last year.
So, I mean, it's kind of right in this area. I think, personally, they should meet somewhere in the middle. I don't really like either number. I think 214 is a little low, and I think 245 is way too high.
But when you look at the taxes afterwards,
they can always change those numbers, too.
They end up saving money with the 245 number.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I just think $245 million is going to make players get some contracts that they may not deserve. You're going to start giving out these massive contracts because teams just know they can. They basically know we have all this room. Why not give a guy this massive contract like the Yankees can say? You know, like it's perfect what they did with Aaron Hicks. If they were to do that again right now and give him this massive contract, maybe they really wouldn't care as much because they have all this other room to sign players.
What a bust of a contract.
And that was
him and Jacoby Ellsbury. Your last two center fielders, you spent money on garbage.
And apparently they want to upgrade in center field this offseason. Not a surprise, but it's just an example with Aaron Hicks. You gave a guy like that $70 million, and maybe with $245 million being the luxury tax threshold, you don't really have to worry about it that much,
right? Because
you've got so much room left. Like
only like 3 teams went above that, and then there were like another 3 teams that were within 3.4 million of the 210 last year.
Right.
So 245. The owners, in that sense, and I'm not saying they're right with their proposal, but they are right that if it goes to 245. They're going to end up spending way more money.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Because one owner is going to say, all right, I'm going right to 245. Well, if the Dodgers say we're going right to 245 and the Padres say, well, we got to keep up with you. Now we're going to 245.
Yeah.
They end up, and then all the other teams kind of fall in line. They end up spending more money than they want to spend. It's
$245 million on a payroll, though, is just a lot of money. That's an exceptionally high amount of money. And I just feel like some guys are going to get some contracts that are going to be worth 10 or 15 million a year more than maybe they should be making. It's just because these teams know we have this room. We'll fight it out. The Yankees and the Dodgers can fight it out for some free agent and give them more money because they can. It's simple as that.
It's what Walker Buehler tweeted about the other day, where he said, "This isn't millionaires versus billionaires. It's employees versus employers."
Yeah,
they're saying we want to get paid with the rate of inflation. If you were working a job and with inflation, numbers went up, but your pay stayed the same, you wouldn't like that either. And on that point, they're right, but you're still making more money than 99%. You're still making over $640,000.
I mean, you can do anything with that kind of money.
Yeah.
I mean, you can live perfectly happy.
That
with
is
$640,000 a year.
$640,000 a year is FU money.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
and you can get a wonderful house and car and whatever you want to do. I mean, you can go on
And
every
literally
vacation you want to go on. I mean, you can
never
do anything.
have to think about a bill or anything like
I mean,
that. I'm sitting here
Right.
with this cushy job, and I'm wondering how I'm going to pay my bills each month. If I was making $640,000 a year.
Well, I think that's the thing about all of this. And that's one of the reasons I said in the beginning that I fall a little more in line with the owners. Now, I've changed that stance because I think some of the owners' proposals have been quite far off.
The owners are cheapskates.
It's been quite far off. And I mean, obviously, they're billionaires. And again, this is sort of, in a way, the billionaires versus the millionaires. But then you look at the players, and they're trying to, get every little cent out of the owners. And I'm going, but if I was making $600,000, I don't know how much I'd be asking for, a $10,000 raise. I mean, you're already making $600,000. Like, that's a very, very high minimum salary. And I know it's one of the lower minimum salaries across the major 5 pro sports. It's not as low as MLS because nobody, no sports league is as low as MLS.
MLS is not a pro.
It's part of the Big 5, though.
People don't talk about a Big 5. It's not. It's the Big 4, and then it's MLS. I know that you like the DC United, as you like to say.
Opening night tonight? I'll be there.
Nobody cares, man.
26,000 they're going to sell out. I guarantee it.
They are not going to sell out. You're going to be one of 3,000 people in that stadium.
No way.
You're going to be one of 3. Nobody.
You want to make a bet on that? I'll make a bet with that.
I'm not going to bet you that only 3,000 people are going to be there. You know more about soccer than I, but I can't.
Well,
nobody cares about DC United.
DC is a surprisingly big soccer stadium. Anyway, back to Baltimore and baseball.
DC,
but
they don't support their hockey team. They don't support their basketball.
Well, they support the hockey team, not the basketball team. No.
They don't support the basketball team. But let's go root on DC United
or the Commanders.
And Freddie Adu from 20 years ago.
Oh, he was a bust. He was a bust. You got Michael Estrada coming out tonight. Oof,
nobody cares.
He's going to be a good
anyway,
player.
Baseball. Back to baseball. The big thing here, the CBT, the collective balance tax or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. That's what Jeff Passan's been saying for a week now, that's the big deal. But the other one is arbitration and the league minimum salary. And Major League, the MLBPA is asking for $775,000 in your first year under team control, and an increase by $30,000 each year through 2026, which would get you up to about $900,000 by the end of that.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball countered at $640,000 this year and an increase of $10K each year through 2026. I feel like if Major League Baseball came with an actual proposal instead of that heap of garbage, if it's so far off what the players are asking for, if they came forward and said, all right, let's start this year at $685,000, and we'll go up by $15,000 every year or $20,000 every year through 2026, maybe that's some common ground, and the players would be okay with that because you're already starting out at $685,000. The next year you're making $700,000. By the end of it, you're making what, $875,000? Let's find some common ground here. Now, look, they're meeting again today. They're meeting early. We were actually supposed to have Evan.
Good. Can't wait.
We were supposed to have Evan Drellick on the show today, but I texted him last night just to see if he was good to go, and he said that because they're meeting early today, he couldn't come on the show. So we'll try and get him again here soon. But he said last night, yesterday's meetings had a little bit of progress. Okay. It was progress for the first time all week, but they're still worlds apart.
Right.
So I don't.
So I just brought up some of the minimum salaries here. I just thought it'd be a relevant note. NBA $925,000. The NHL $750,000. NHL. I mean, they're making considerably less money than the owners are as far as revenue-wise.
These teams also have significantly less players.
It's true, too. Yeah, definitely. NFL, $660,000, so right in that range
53-man active roster.
53, I mean, they're paying a lot of money out for that. And then MLB, obviously, last year was $570,500. We want to obviously bring that up a little bit. I think they'll meet somewhere in the middle of that, but just a relevant note.
I would like to see them meet somewhere in the middle of it, but more than anything, I would like to stop talking about this.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about the business of baseball. I don't want to get angry that they're not playing baseball. I want to be angry that they're playing baseball and they suck. I'd rather be angry about actual baseball than about non-baseball and you screwing with my spring and summer plans. That's what I don't want to do this. But
and hopefully for not much longer. But I can't exactly come out here and say I'm positive about this whole thing after seeing this. I mean, you read Jeff Passan, and Jeff Passan is the guy to follow in all this. Evan Drellich and him are really up on this stuff. And Passan, at the end of it, on almost every day after they meet, goes, there isn't a deal, there never was going to be a deal.
Right.
And that's just the most deflating thing to hear of all time because it means they're not even really close yet. And that's just, and they have until Monday. I can't see them hitting that deadline.
They're both being just sticks in the mud. They're planting their feet and they're refusing to move. The fact that they agreed to a universal DH, the fact that they're probably going to agree on expanded playoffs, and the fact that they're probably going to agree on the draft lottery, that's good. Yeah. But those aren't the big issues. Those are issues that could be settled later. You gotta get this luxury tax thing figured out, and you got to get the arbitration and the league minimum figured out. Once you get that figured out, everything is good. All the dominoes will fall once that gets figured out. But until then, it's just beating our heads against the wall for the sake of doing something.
Right.
You know, like, I just cannot believe that they started meeting in January. It's now basically March, and nobody's come with a serious proposal.
No.
And when I say it might be serious to them, but a serious proposal that you can work off
right.
of.
I mean, look, the thing is both sides come in every time with this proposal that they believe is good faith. But it isn't, because you can clearly tell that you're not even close to the other side demand, right? Like you're not really making concessions in any of these proposals, and you're not even coming close. Why would you even think that's something to come in there with? Like that's what I'm questioning. Like, why, as the owners, when they draft up this new proposal and they come in there, do they think the Players Association might like it? You're way off, right? Like if you're putting these numbers like this in here and you're not even coming close to the Players Association numbers, and vice versa too. I mean, it's on both sides. Both sides are at fault here. They come in. Why would you even think they're going to accept it? It's just, I mean, you can make a proposal. It doesn't mean it's going to be close to what they're asking for.
Right.
I mean, it's worthless. It's
my
worthless.
stepdad always used to tell me, and he is not a frugal man by any stretch. My stepdad always used to tell me, you don't get rich by spending money. And that's exactly the owner's mentality right now. They're billionaires. Most of the owners are billionaires. Every franchise is worth at least $1 billion, right? Yeah. And they're shortchanging the players.
Yeah.
You know, I'd want to side with the players if the players were making any bit of a reasonable proposal.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Neither side is being reasonable. Neither side cares to meet in the middle. They want what they want, and they want it now.
Yeah.
A J.G. Wentworth commercial. It's my money. I want it now. And I can't get on board with either side. At this point, figure it out. I'm wondering, and again, Major League Baseball said the other night, there's nothing left for us to discuss. And they want to get a mediator, and the Players Union rejected it again.
Why not just do it at this point? What do you have to lose?
Because the union is afraid that a mediator will work off the last proposal and screw them over. But
perhaps,
then go find your own mediator.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, that's an option for them, right?
Yeah, why have they not just said, we'll agree to a mediator that we both agree on?
Yeah, that would be...
If you want a mediator, let us both talk to these mediators and see which one we can both agree on to get in here.
Right.
But no, it's just, again, stick in the mud.
Yeah.
I don't want that. We don't want that. We're not doing it. Instead of trying to compromise. The whole thing is an unwillingness to compromise and put your egos aside for the betterment of the game.
All of this, again, it's just so worthless. It's just so all of this, meeting every day and all of this, it's not getting them anywhere. And they've made so little progress. And they'll meet again today, and I guarantee you when they come out of it, they'll say, well, they made a little progress, but, Players Association was unhappy with this, and the owners were unhappy with this. They're still pretty far apart. We've got time until Monday, and I'm going, come on, guys. Like, it's not going to happen at this point. It's just not. I do not foresee this happening by Monday. And
there's no way.
I mean, the owners even, I think they thought the Players Association offer on Thursday, I think it was worse than the offer they made on Wednesday. I mean, they went backwards. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? Why
not playing baseball? That's for damn sure.
I mean, my question to the Players Association there would be, why did you go backwards on the numbers? Why are you going backwards on what you agreed upon on Wednesday, you thought was okay, and then you went back on it on Thursday?
Now, what were these numbers? Because
I don't remember. I gotta look this up. I can find it.
But yeah, because I remember seeing it. I can't remember exactly what the proposal was. Because I remember last week on this show we talked about how they tried to get the bonus pool money for league minimum and arbitration up to $115 million when they started at 105, went down to 100, and then back up to 115. But with only 80% of 2-year players, 80% of 2+ year players not reaching arbitration, so they end up having to pay 150 people out of that pool instead of 30 people. So that's why the money went up. But either way, nothing's happening. We're supposed to be about a month away from Major League Baseball, and we're not close. We are not close. like I said, I'd rather be mad about Adley Rutschman not being on the opening day roster right now than mad about the fact that there's no baseball for the foreseeable future. And we just went through this in 2020. They could have been playing in the beginning or middle of June in 2020, and they couldn't get on the same page. They couldn't agree to a schedule, and they ended up giving us 60 games in a bastardized schedule that made even the Orioles competitive for 2 months. You're killing the game. I have a friend who's a diehard baseball fan. Not nearly as diehard as I am, but he's still a diehard baseball fan. And he said, "This is going to be why baseball will eventually die." Because even when and if, and I think it's a matter of when, not if, even when they do agree on a new CBA, why would we have any faith that 5-6 years from now, when they need to do another one, that they're going to agree then? Yeah.
Well, the leadership has just got to change. I think that's one of the biggest things. I mean, these leaders on both sides are clearly just...
Well, that's never going to happen unless every major league team sells.
Well, and Rob Manfred is very beloved by the owners.
Because he's their mouthpiece.
Because he gets what they want, and that's not surprising because that's his job. I mean, he works for them, essentially. But I did find what they went back on.
Okay.
They went back on the minimum salary. That's what they went backwards on Thursday. And that's what the union...
What was the one they proposed on Wednesday?
They didn't say the numbers. This was from Jesse Rogers from ESPN. He just said, and I quote, "The league was, wait for it, underwhelmed today. Not thrilled the union went backwards on the minimum salary, and the Super 2 issue is a non-starter for them." That was the tweet.
Yeah. I just, how have you met this much this week, and you can't get on the same page with anything? You can't say, well, we want $775K. You want $640K.
Yeah.
Why don't we do $705K to start?
I don't know why meeting in the middle isn't something that happens. It just doesn't. Like, why not meet in the middle? What is the problem with that, right? You see that 214 million number, and you see that 245 million number, and I'm talking about the tax threshold. Why not just meet in the middle? It's not that hard.
Right.
Pick a number. It's not that hard. I mean, you pick 230, right?
Yeah,
basically right in the middle.
Meet at $230 million.
I mean, what's the problem?
Let's call it a day. Because the owners don't want to spend more money.
Yeah,
they just don't. What it comes down to, honestly, is that the owners are cheap.
And then the players know they're going to get paid less too.
Yeah,
so
and they just don't want to spend more money. And guys, look, we're doing this show. It's a weekly baseball show. Trust me, we would rather be talking about anything else on this show.
Right.
We know that the constant CBA talk, look, we're annoyed by it. We know that you're annoyed by it. We got to put on the show, and this is the only thing going on. Next week, I won't be here next week, but the following, you guys can talk about, and the following week we can talk about minor league spring training. And hopefully, by the time I'm back in this chair, there's a deal in place. There should be. There should have been a deal in place a month ago.
Yeah, there really should.
We've talked about it ad nauseum. Waiting 43 days to even have a meeting. You basically you knew this was coming since April of 2020.
Right.
And you didn't get any. It's been 2 years, and you haven't gotten anything done.
Well, like you said, we saw the precursor to this last season with 2020, excuse me, with the coming together on a schedule and when to start during the whole pandemic and everything being shut down for a while. And it ended up happening. It was a 60-game season,
which
and
sucked.
It was kind of not really a legitimate season. And we saw that, hey, these two sides do not get along with each other. We knew that right then and there. Well, and those two sides should have realized that and started working on this then.
I remember pulling into a parking space at the grocery store by my house, and they were talking about they may have agreed on an 80-game schedule. Yeah. And then later, nope, they don't agree on it. It's looking like it might be a 60-game schedule starting at the end of July if they can't figure this out. And I remember sitting there then and there, and we're talking early mid-June, and thinking they are never getting the CBA done.
Yeah.
There's going to be a work stoppage in 2021-22 because they're never going to agree. They can't agree on a simple thing like putting an 80-game schedule together.
Yeah.
How are they going to agree on anything else? It's absolutely maddening. And look, starting Monday, the minor leaguers are reporting to spring training. A lot of them are already down there, thanks to our buddy Eric Garfield, who's down there posting all these videos, and they're looking good. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing those videos that he's posting. God bless that man for giving us something to look at that's actually baseball related. And we can you and Ryan next week when he fills in for me can talk about that. We can talk about it in 2 weeks when I'm back. That's what we want to talk about, guys. We know you don't want to hear about the CBA. It's all we got right now. It's all we got. Now, look, today on the rest of this show, we got Stan coming up in a matter of moments. So we're going to talk to him about all this. We have Eric Arditti from Barstool Sports at 11. That's where we're going to get into some actual Orioles talk And the last hour is really just going to be baseball. So Eric Arditti from Barstool Sports is going to join us again at 11 o'clock. Then we're going to do sounding off with Zach Goodman. We've got Orioles banter coming up. We're going to talk about the players that we're looking at this spring that we really want to see step up in the minor league system. And then we're going to close the show with some Orioles trivia from Zach. To me, last week I trivialized him, and he's gonna get me back today. So, yeah, don't want to keep talking about the CBA, guys. We really don't, but this is what we got going on right now. So, but for those of you who's sticking with us and tuning in to hear us talk every week and give our opinions on something that we just hate, we certainly appreciate it. With that in mind, we've got Stan on the line with us right now. Stan the Fan, Charles the Grand Poobah of Pressbox Sports. Stan, how are you today?
I'm good. How you doing, Paul?
We're doing all right. Zach and I were just talking about how tired we are talking about the CBA. They just can't get on the same page, Stan. The one thing we've seen them agree to, aside from the universal DH, is now apparently both sides have agreed on the framework of a draft lottery. The last we heard, Major League Baseball proposed a 4-team draft lottery. The Players Union countered with 7. What are your feelings on this? What number do you think they're going to fall in at?
I don't see any downside to going with the players. Let the players have a win here. I can't imagine why they're bickering over these 3 spots. That really aren't going to make a huge difference in anything.
Yeah, and
I think conceptually they're on the same page. It's just I'm sick of talking about it too, but frankly, there's not much else to talk about when you talk about baseball right now.
Right.
But I was very surprised. You read these little write-ups afterwards, and initially it was like no movement, and then I read like at 1 o'clock last night that the commissioner and Tony Clark were at the meeting together for the first time. I don't know. To me, that's real progress, because those are the guys that have to cut a deal.
I figured they were there all along.
No, this is
I
the
didn't
first
realize,
time
yeah.
they've met. This is the first time they've met face to face.
Do you think that now there's even more of a sense of urgency since Major League Baseball's, well, I guess we'll say soft deadline. They're calling it a hard deadline, but it's really just puffing out their chest. Do you think that there's more urgency right now than there has been before, because now they're 2 days away from this so-called deadline?
Well, because it brings, first of all, in harsh reality, it brings the prospect of losing games, regular season games. I mean, why they've been so cavalier with losing the preseason, is beyond me. But we are where we are. I certainly think there's some more urgency, because what's going to happen now is when they actually start missing games, you're going to have another issue come up that's going to be a pretty expensive issue, and that's that the players don't want to lose paychecks, even though the games won't be played. So they're going to be demanding. That's a whole nother, quantum leap into something else, that they're going to want to be paid their back pay for 5 games or 10 games or 15 games, whatever it comes down to. So there is more urgency to it, but I think there's a very easy key to that, and that is the expansion of the playoffs.
So Stan,
that easily has the owners pay the players, so that doesn't become an issue, and and then they go on from there.
So with this expansion of the playoffs, we're seeing a lot of people against the expansion to 14 teams. I guess I think it would be the baseball playoffs would be watered down, but the way I look at it is now you get a 3-game series for a wild card, and you have more cities, more teams, fan bases that are invested in the season. I don't see why that's a bad thing.
It definitely waters it down, because you don't want a team that comes out of nowhere. Frankly, that defeats sort of the 162 games. That was supposed to have meant something. Mm-hmm. It will mean less. I'm hoping personally that the 14-team playoff would expedite a lessening of regular season games by 6 or 8 games. Take the season back to 154 games, and get the playoffs started a little earlier.
Well, that also means that ownership will be losing more money because we're seeing they're making like
Not
$6
really.
million a game.
They'd make that up. They'd make that up on the postseason, TV package.
Stan, there was a
I
tweet.
mean, they're estimating that's $100 million.
Yeah.
Stan, there was a tweet from Buster Olney this morning that I wanted to ask you about. He
What,
said,
"What's this? A tweet?"
Yeah, from Buster Olney at ESPN. He said a lot of club staffers and agents strongly believe a draft lottery will only have a slight impact on MLB's tanking problem. Now, it seems like a draft lottery is something they're kind of coming to terms with. It seems like they're starting to agree on this. It seems like at this point it'll be implemented. How much of an impact do you think personally this could have on tanking? Because I don't see tanking as a huge problem. I think it's a good way to get back up on your feet and revitalize a farm system. And I think there's some benefits to it. Obviously, there's some drawbacks for competitive balance and everything. But what do you think about that tweet? And do you agree with Buster?
I think that just the fact that they're starting to have some agreement on a couple things is a real positive to me. I will tell you this: smart fantasy baseball leagues for 15 years have been doing exactly this. They have been fighting tanking to try and have some competitive balance within their leagues, and they have taken away for the last place team has never gotten the first pick in their next season's draft.
Yeah.
So smart people have come to this conclusion that teams that are bad, and it's a nice way to clear the decks and start over again. But is it really fair to the other teams that you play kind of a horseshit team every day?
Yeah.
Is it fair that the Yankees are going to beat the Orioles, 17-1 every year?
Yeah.
And especially when you have some divisions like that where there's 2 or 3 bad teams, like say the Nationally West has Arizona and Colorado. That means you got a couple teams. Their record is artificially good because of how bad the teams are in their division.
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating to watch when you see your team go out there and you want to root for them every night, and all they do is lose. There was a couple years ago, the Orioles won 2 of the first 3 games against the Yankees, and then they didn't win again the rest of the year. It's certainly frustrating, and hopefully we can eliminate the tanking. I, for one, would love to see the Orioles play a much more competitive brand of baseball this year. Now, getting back to this the CBA here a little bit, we're getting threats, Stan, on both sides. Major League Baseball is stating a deadline's a deadline. If we don't have something agreed to by the end of Monday, the regular season games are going to be missed. You're not going to be paid for them. Players are saying if Major League Baseball goes forward with that, they will not agree on expanded playoffs, which, as you alluded to, it would cost the owners over $100 million. How serious are these threats from both sides, and who do you expect to blink first?
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. What are you saying is going to cost the owners $100 million?
If the owners cancel regular season games after Monday, then the players.
I haven't read that would cost them $100 million.
I was reading it from Evan Drellick on The Athletic. They're saying that they wouldn't agree to expanded playoffs, which would not agreeing to expanded playoffs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the expanded play. Well, I already talked about that. That's going to be part of the deal.
Right.
And that's why the owners really want to tidy this thing up and try and miss as few games as possible.
Right. Well, and so my question to that, since I know you already talked about that, who do you think is more likely to blink first on this? Because I think that's something that's catastrophic to both sides, missing games. Who's going to blink first here?
I think they're both going to end up agreeing to that. That's going to be part of the ultimate agreement that the players, at least for this year, I think you will see a 14 team playoff, and I think the players will get paid, provided this doesn't go on another 60 days. Then the players really are going to have a hard time getting paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
if you miss a month of games,
if you miss 5 or 7, 9 games, is it really worth getting on your high horse about, to miss another potentially 9 or 15 games over the fact that you can't agree to give them pay? It's a piss in the bucket.
Yeah,
if you get that $100 million TV deal.
Right, right. Look,
and they apparently know what the dollar figure is. So that's
well,
and that's why they're so desirous of having 4 more teams, because if it was only 2 teams, it's probably a $50 million payout, and they're not going to be so likely to be so forgiving of the players missing games, and pay that. So it's to me, there's no question that this year is going to be a 14-team playoff.
yeah, I guess in the minority that would love to see it. I think it's just better for baseball if you have more teams in the playoffs. But again, that might just be me. Now, the 2 biggest dominoes that need to fall are this collective bargaining tax, basically the luxury tax. The players' union is asking for $245 million for a soft cap. So if you go over that, it's immediately a 20% tax. If you hit 20 to 40 million over, it's a 32% tax, and if you hit 40 plus million over the 245 number, it's a 62.5% tax. Where the owners are coming in, it's 214 million that they're proposing, with a 50% tax just for going over, a 75% tax just for going over 20 to 40 million, and a 100% tax if you go over by 40 plus million. Now, on the surface, the 245 looks like way more money, but when you add in the taxes at the end, the owner's proposal actually ends up costing more money in the long run. We're talking over $500 million if you go over that 40 million plus over threshold.
Paul, I'm glad you understand that and were able to recite that. My head explodes when you start talking about that. It's clear that the owners want they want as high a possible a luxury tax threshold, because that keeps them a chance to not spend over that and get the tax. The players want as low a threshold as possible, so teams will not be disincentivized from going over that figure. So it's pretty simple in terms of explaining what the process, what both sides want. They've got to find a sweet spot somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and actually saying it's the other way around. The owners want the lower threshold but the higher tax, and the players want the higher threshold with the lower tax. The owner's proposal actually ends up costing them more money, and basically it's a way of scaring the S out of the owners from spending that kind of money, to stay under that.
That's what I thought I said, but
the whole thing is it's so confusing to put
it
out there.
It really is. It's clear that the owners want high penalties and want a lower threshold, so they don't go over that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and Zach and I were talking about this. The whole thing. Why can't we just meet in the middle?
I'm sorry. The players want the lower threshold. The
With
owners
the tax.
want the higher threshold. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But why not just meet at 230 million? And then you look at the arbitration, the league minimum. Owners want 640,000. The players want 775,000. Why not meet at 705,000 and just go from there?
We talk about this every week. That's sort of what negotiating is supposed to be about. And these people have, dawdled, and they look. I'll tell you, they look, especially both sides, really out of touch with reality right now.
Yeah.
With the country fighting back from a pandemic, a war going on in Europe, they really look out of touch.
Yeah, they absolutely.
It's a very bad look for the sport.
Now, Stan, minor league spring training starts on Monday, so we're going to get to see the likes of Grayson Rodriguez and Adley Rutschman and Colton Cowser and Kobe Mayo and Gunnar Henderson, all these guys. Are you looking forward to minor league spring training? Are you going to be more in tune with that because it's all we have right now?
Not particularly. I mean, what is my way to get in touch with that?
I was going to say
I'm not going down to spring training because of this.
If they can give us some coverage some way of actually being
able
to
see I'll
games.
read it and I'll soak it up because I'm preparing for my fantasy baseball draft, so I'll want to know as much as about the prospects, but it's not the same as having games, where I'm seeing a game here and there on ESPN, a game here and there on MLB Network, a game here and there on MASN, and suddenly I've watched 10 or 12 baseball games,
Honestly, I think that I think minor league baseball could do themselves a big service if they get the minor league baseball TV up and running for spring training, so that maybe we can watch some of those spring games. I would watch them if I get to watch Adley and Grayson. And
Here's the thing: just put an iPhone out there and start recording. Like,
yeah, like Eric does.
You can, right. I mean, just live stream these things. It would be, you could put an iPhone on a tripod in center field, zoom it in a little bit, put it on Instagram Live, and live stream it for free.
Some of these broadcasts look like that's what they do.
Well, but
honestly.
I would enjoy that still. That would be,
if a station put up random camera shots at all the different facilities, and we're able to somehow. Well, you wouldn't even really need a broadcaster. People would watch. They would go to a website dedicated to just sights and sounds of spring training.
Yeah, I miss the popping of the mitt and the crack of the bat. Like that's what I'm looking forward to. Like normally this is when Zach and I start getting really ramped up for the season, when we're super excited to get things going. And right now we're sitting in the stands still. Now I do want to ask you one more question before I let you go. I was reading an article or a Q&A between Dan Connolly and Keith Law, and Keith Law has famously ranked the Orioles lower than his colleagues at different news sites. He has the Orioles farm system ranked 10th. And when Dan Connolly asked him why does he have them ranked 10th, whereas everybody else has them either 1 through 4, and he says because the Orioles don't have enough of that international free agent pipeline. None of those guys have matured and graduated to playing in America, except for Prieto, who hasn't even played here yet. Do you agree with his take? He said that Orioles fans should be excited that they're even ranked as high as 10th without the international pipeline. How do you feel about that, and do you think that maybe he's undervaluing what we have here?
I really don't know enough about what exactly we have in the pipeline. I just know that if that's the difference between first, second, third, or fourth, imagine what it would have been like if they hadn't put the investment they have already. We kind of know that they don't have the cream of the top, prospects in international scouting right now. They're not spending inordinately, but they are making a true investment, and I'm happy on that, and I'm not going to focus on whether we're first, second, third, fourth, or 10th, because of that. It's got to be better than it was 2 or 3 years ago.
These rankings are all subjective. Just like whoever's in the top 100, they might not be better than somebody who's in the top 200. You never really know.
I mean, the bottom line is in 2 or 3 years, we will have a couple players on this team. I don't know if there'll be significant players on the major league roster, but there will be a couple, 2 or 3 players, hopefully a pitcher that comes out of nowhere that's got a big arm that they wouldn't have had. And that can be a huge difference when you're doing well in the draft and other, areas of signing players.
Yeah, and then once the Dominican Baseball Academy is finished in about a year from now, I think that's going to help them get more signings in the international free agent market because they have a state-of-the-art facility that's better or on par with the best in baseball. So I think that that's important too. I'm really excited to see. It seems like they're spending more money each year. They were the one team that had like $100 left from their bonus slot spending,
right.
Which is it's great to see because every other team that was in the top 5 with the least amount of money left was like over $300,000. So it was cool to see that they spent all of their money. Stan,
right. That is really the big deal. We know when they sort of announced Kobe Perez's signing a couple of years back, he immediately built himself some time by he and Mike Elias talking about that this is not going to be an immediate pipeline, but because it takes time for our people, because we've been so out of touch down there, to build up the relationships. And in this, which I think is sort of year 3 of the real intensity being put toward the international, Latin American especially, you saw that a couple of the signings they had were basically relationship signings, that the players were offered more money but had been attached to the Orioles for some time. and that's one or two of the better players they signed this year.
Yeah, and they ended up getting a guy for about in Cesar Prieto. They got him for about $2 million less than he was going to sign with the Astros for because of
which is the guy that actually could end up being by sort of like May or June the starting second. Is that Prieto, the second baseman?
That's Prieto. Yeah,
he's the one that has the really high on base percentage
and the great hit tool. He's been compared to Nick Madrigal from the White Sox.
Yeah. That's the guy to keep an eye on for this year. And the Orioles have never. It's been a long time since they've had anybody international that there was even the thought that they might come in and help that year.
Yeah.
And this guy might actually help this year.
Yeah, we're doing an Orioles banter segment a little bit later in the show. We're going to talk about the minor leaguers that we're most excited to see, and he's right near the top of my list because I think he could be. I don't think he's going to be a world beater, but I think he's somebody who can get on base and not strike out a ton. So I'm excited to see him play.
All right,
Stan, what do you got coming up this week?
I've got Thursday night, and it turns out that you guys on the Glenn Clark show are going to have him on Thursday morning. Retiring, semi-retiring, Bruce Cunningham, who's going to be out at Fox after a long run there from the mid-'80s. I think it was the mid-'80s.
91. It was 91.
91.
Yeah.
So long run for Bruce, and we're going to have him on this coming Thursday. Ross and I haven't put our heads together. We'll come up with something for Monday night at 6 o'clock.
I have no doubts. I'm actually not going to be here, Stan. I'm actually going to be in Florida playing my own baseball tournament next weekend. So
good.
It's going to be Zach and Ryan Blake taking the helm here. So, Stan,
all right.
Great as always. We will talk to you next week and hopefully better news.
Yeah,
all right?
Hopefully we'll be getting close to some actual real baseball talk.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. Have a great weekend.
Okay. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.
See you. That was Stan the Fan Charles, who has two great shows for you every week. Every Monday night, Stan and former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley visit with a different guest from the world of baseball. And every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. Stan, as always, had a busy week this week. He and Ross chatted with former Orioles pitcher Mike Torres. He also caught up with Visit Baltimore president and CEO Al Hutchinson, while he and Gary had a great conversation with former Baltimore Sun writer Don Marcus about his new Lem Bias podcast, which I would love to check out. Find those shows under the videos tab at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or at PressBoxOnline.com/video. Coming up on Monday, Stan and Ross will have another great show for you. Guests still in the works for that. And on Thursday, Stan and Gary will be joined by Fox 45's Bruce Cunningham to talk about his upcoming retirement. Today's show is also brought to you by... Toyota RAV4. Make the most out of every day in a Toyota RAV4, available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today. When we come back in, we are going to do some sounding off with Zach Goodman. It's the Bet Around.
Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
The newest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland men's basketball's 2002 NCAA Tournament Championship, as Gary Williams reflects on how the program rose from the ashes of NCAA sanctions to the pinnacle of the sport, and why his perspective of the title run has changed now 2 decades later. Plus, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, and the rest of the team relive the moments that ultimately led them to cutting down the nets in Atlanta. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Glory Days Grill's winter seasonal menu is back with comfort classics like their house-made meatloaf and short rib grilled cheese. It also features the center-cut sirloin with grilled shrimp, the char-grilled pork tenderloin, grilled meatloaf sandwich, smoky thigh wings with Alabama barbecue sauce, and a Brussels and bacon appetizer. All of these items pair well with Devil's Backbone 8-Point IPA or their anniversary IPA brewed by Devil's Backbone. And try their seasonal cocktails, Blood Orange Bourbon Cider, Apple Ginger Mule, and Captain's Hot Cider. Find out more and get your order in today at glorydaysgrill.com. Great food, good sports.
Hey guys, it's Paul Valley, and there's a new era of Glenn Clark Radio as I've joined Glenn every weekday from 10 a.m. to noon. There will be some changes, but what won't change is the absolute best daily discussion of Baltimore sports.
New Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Rashad Bateman.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
He is outfielder Cedric Mullins.
Thank you guys for having me.
Trey Mancini.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
He is Kevin Zeitler.
Thank you. Very happy to be a part of this.
Ravens kicker Justin Tucker.
Thanks for having me.
Adley Rutschman.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
John Angelos.
Thanks a lot. Good to be with you.
Ryan Mountcastle.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Marlon Humphrey.
Thank you.
Quarterback for the University of Maryland, Talia Tungavailoa.
Thank you guys for having me.
He is J.K. Dobbins.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
The great Ray Lewis.
Always good to be on.
He is Mr. Cal Ripken Jr.
Good chatting with you.
You can watch us live at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. And podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
And we're back on the bat around here. That's an old Jimmy Fallon skit with with Ben Affleck. If you haven't seen the best of Jimmy Fallon on SNL, go.
Oh, I've seen a lot of Jimmy Fallon on SNL. Love it.
Go check that out. That's his
Yeah.
That's his thing. And we're back. Today's show brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. The wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Bet on every sport with 51 self-service kiosks and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. Win your share of $10,000 cash by signing up for Live Rewards Cash Drawing April 1st. That's the FanDuel Sportsbook that's now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. We are back here on the batter. I'm Paul. He's Zach. Zach's about to sound off on something I'm looking forward to. Go for it, my man.
Yeah, so an article from CBS this week talked about Major League Baseball's possibility of playing games this year and in the coming years inside former Negro League baseball stadiums. So I guess the ones that still exist, and I'm not sure which ones are still there, but there are a few that still exist, which I think is very cool. I think this is an idea that is going to be very profitable for Major League Baseball and I'm a sucker for historical stuff like this. I love history. Baseball history is awesome. I think I compared it to the Field of Dreams game last year because it's a random Chicago White Sox New York Yankees game in the middle of the week, right? Like I had no reason to really watch that game. It's a random game, but you put it in the Field of Dreams and you see guys hitting the ball into the corn and all this historical value with it, with the movie and everything and the context of it. It makes it awesome, and they got a ton of viewers. It went crazy. I mean, they got way more viewers in that game than they did the All-Star game.
The game was awesome.
It was awesome. It was a great game.
Tim Anderson with the walk-off home run into the corn.
Exactly.
It was an epic.
Right.
It was an epic arena for it, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
They were in the spotlight, and the game was everything you could have wanted it to be.
And there was legitimately no other reason to watch a midweek game like that, except if it was at the Field of Dreams.
Baseball.
If you love baseball, sure, but it's Yankees White Sox, and you don't see a lot of people in Baltimore randomly turning on the Yankees White Sox games.
No, it's true.
I watch the Yankees once in a while if I've because I love baseball, and I do have Yes Network, but it's just not something I do all the time. But if you put it in the Field of Dreams, you put it in a Negro League stadium, I will watch that stuff. That's always cool.
Zach loves the Yankees.
I don't love the Yankees.
To realize he's always talking about their prospects.
No, I
he's
don't.
always talking about how he has Network and watches their games.
I do. I think I have respect for the way they operate. I mean, they operate in a constant winning fashion, and they're still putting smaller payrolls on the field than some of the other teams. So
they win in the regular season.
They do, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, at least they get
a lot has changed since Steinbrenner passed away a long time ago now, and a little bit has changed there in the winning culture of it. But I still think they're
I mean, they still win every year. They haven't won a championship since
right
2009.
Yeah.
So,
but to finish this off, I just want to say, like, this is very positive for the future of the game. You're going to attract more young people, and you're going to attract a broader audience if you're doing special games like this. Because look, I mean, a 162 game season gets kind of monotonous after a while, and people that's one of the big complaints people have about baseball. Oh, it's slow. Oh, the season's too long. That kind of stuff. You put it in a Negro League stadium, people will watch. I almost guarantee you.
And honestly, since they've added the Negro Leagues to Baseball Reference as being part of Major League Baseball's all-time stats.
Yep.
It's bringing more attention, which deservedly so. It should have always had the attention on it. It's such an archaic thought process to not have the Negro Leagues count because it was professional baseball.
Of course,
it's not their fault they were born the race they were born and weren't allowed to play until 1947. So it's important to get it done, and it puts a lot of emphasis on the Negro Leagues. And people are going to do their research and figure out the teams that played at these fields, and they're going to learn more about them. I love that I go into Kohl's now, and in the Orioles and Ravens section, they have the Orioles. They have Baltimore's Negro League T-shirts.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
wow.
I went in there a couple of weeks ago, and it was like the Baltimore Gray. It's
cool.
Yeah, Baltimore had two Negro League teams. One of them was a Baltimore Gray, I believe, and then there was another one. I can't remember what they were called, but they sell the shirts for both at Kohl's.
Was it like the Barons or something? I could
yeah,
be
the
wrong.
Baltimore Barons or something.
It might be something like that.
Something like that. We could look it up. We have the Googs.
The
Googs. But no, I think it's huge. I think it's really important for baseball. Now, have they agreed to do this, or?
I don't believe yet. It's just something they're considering at the moment.
Gotcha. No, I think that it's I think it's an important thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad to know that at least it's in the works.
Yeah.
Because you can't put. I mean, Josh Gibson, one of the greatest home run hitters of all time.
Yeah.
And they haven't even. If you look up his numbers on Baseball Reference, he doesn't have a ton
It's not
of home
legit,
runs,
right?
Because they don't have all the stats from him.
Those numbers are about 500 home runs short, at least. I think they have him at like 165 home runs. He hit like over 600.
People say he hit over 800.
People
say he hit over 800. I mean,
the guy was incredibly talented.
Satchel Paige was pitching in the majors, I think, at 59 years old.
Yeah, with the Royals.
And he went 3 innings of one hit ball in that one outing with the Royals. I mean, these guys are some of the best baseball players in history. Nobody talks about them because they were born black in the early 1900s, late 1800s.
And Satchel Paige did have a little bit of a career before in his 40s, I believe.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I believe he was with Cleveland, and then he pitched a little bit with Kansas City, but he should have been pitching in the majors long before that.
100%.
Long before that. So, no, it's a good sounding off segment because it's really important, and people do need to be paying attention. So, look, we got Eric Arditti coming up here in a few minutes. We're going to talk some actual Orioles baseball with him, and just as a little preview of our Orioles banter segment, man, like we've been saying, at least we can talk about minor league spring training. I don't know how much coverage we're going to get. I don't know who around here is going to be covered. I mean, Steve Molesky should be on top of it because that's what he's the minor leagues
he's
guy.
The guy.
But I'm just excited to hear about how Adley Rutschman's looking this spring and how Grayson's looking. And we see all those videos from Eric Garfield, but I mean, half the time we don't know who the player is that's in the batter's box. You're not really seeing these guys pitching. Apparently, Carter Ballmer's looking pretty good in his side
Did
sessions.
not know that. Okay.
Dean Kramer was. It's a big year for Dean Kramer. Again,
what's Kramer doing? Because he's on the 40-man, so he shouldn't be there.
I mean, he's warming up on his own.
Oh, you mean okay? Got you.
There's videos of him throwing on his own and looking good. Kyle Bradish apparently has looked good in his side sessions, preparing for the spring. So a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about here in Orioles banter in about 25, 30 minutes. But oh man, hopefully that's what we talk about on the. Well, again, I won't be here. I'll be in beautiful sunny Florida. But hopefully that's what you and Ryan can talk about. And then when I get back in 2 weeks with a fresh tan,
we'll see.
I'll be able to talk about that a little bit more. And hopefully by then, man, we'll be talking about Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
If they don't have a deal done by the time I get back in 2 weeks, what are we even doing?
Right.
The deal should be done by Monday.
Yeah.
Again, at nauseum. But why don't you go ahead and give Eric a call now? I think he'd be okay with us calling him a couple minutes early. Yeah, so while he's doing that, I just want to point out that today's show is also brought to you by a new show with myself and Glenn Clark called Simply the Bets. Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and myself, Paul Valley, every Wednesday morning at 11:30. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and even to offer a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m., brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. You can also watch at Facebook.com/PressBoxSports if you feel so inclined. And I feel so inclined to talk to Eric Arditti from Barstool Sports right now. Eric, good morning. How are you today?
What's going on, boys? How are we?
We are good. We are excited to have you on, man, because we can actually talk a little bit of baseball instead of these collective bargaining agreement negotiations. We are going to ask you about it's the first thing, and then we're going to move on. What is your take on the CBA negotiations at this point?
My biggest takeaway, at least what I'm focusing on, is I'm obsessed with the reporters posted up in the parking lot, just taking pictures and videos of them walking in. Like, I like to it's like I'm picturing a tailgate scene, and guys are just sitting in their cars being like, oh, there's Manfred, take a picture. Oh, there's Scherzer. There's Scherzer getting out of the car. There's Francisco Lindor. I don't know. To me, that's the funny part to me. Obviously, everything else is super concerning. The fact that, by Monday there's a high chance that we're going to know that we officially won't have, the baseball. I know they've already canceled games until, March 7th or whatever. But I mean, every day that this stuff doesn't get done, it's just going to snowball into, us missing more and more games. I know today was supposed to be the first spring training game for a lot of teams. The Orioles and Yankees were supposed to be on today. Obviously not happening, and it doesn't seem like they're much closer. I know yesterday there were reports that we, some of the stuff had been, I guess they were agreeing on some of the stuff, not many things, but overall, it's super concerning, and it sucks that we're in the position that we are. And again, it just doesn't seem like there's much optimism for anything getting done soon.
So you're cut from the same cloth as Zach and I when it comes to baseball. How are you coping with the lack of baseball right now? That we should be getting amped up for another Orioles tremendous season, and instead we're sitting here talking about, are they going to play at all?
Doing a lot of MLB The Show. Show. I know the new one comes out in a couple weeks, so I'm getting my fill of my 2021 in. I've already traded for Wander Franco, Shohei Ohtani. Elias and that regime have just completely overtaken. They've cracked a lot of eggs and made a pretty good omelet in Baltimore in my version of the show. But other than that, I'm kind of doing what everyone else is doing, and I'm watching some NCAA baseball.
Nice.
It's fun. It's electric. There's tons of games on. The weekend for college baseball is awesome. That's pretty much how I'm getting my fill in. And if you're not watching NCAA baseball, I highly encourage everyone to do it. It's very exciting. Some of the names: Blake Money for LSU last night against Towson. Tommy Tanks, of course, down at NC State, hitting I think 7 home runs in his first 5 college games. It's been a lot of fun. And again, the season's only 2 weeks old. So the show and NCAA baseball, that's how I'm getting my baseball fill.
Do you even care at this point what comes out of a new deal as long as we get baseball back?
I really don't. I kind of just want baseball. Obviously, I'm not a player. I'm not getting paid by MLB, so it has zero effect on my bank account or anything like that. And I understand why why they have why they're worried about it. I just want baseball at some capacity. I don't care if there's a draft lottery for the first 4 spots. I don't care if there's a pitch clock. I don't care. I just need baseball. I don't want to be going into April, May when it's 75, 80 degrees outside, and I'm going, man, you know what? I'd sure love to be at Camden Yards right now. And I get on Twitter and I see videos of Rob Manfred still, walking across this parking lot to the players' side trying to talk about something.
In his white leisure pants and his pastel-colored shirts.
Yeah, he looked like a dad on a Saturday morning. That's how I'm going to look in 30 minutes when I'm going to PetSmart.
Nice.
I want baseball. I don't care what comes out of it. Just give it to me.
Well, you're getting a little bit of baseball back on Monday when minor league spring training starts. that basically includes all of the Orioles' top prospects aside from DL Hall. How much are you anticipating minor league baseball with what's going on the major league side of things?
I'm super excited. I'm definitely, obviously, if you're an Oriole fan, you have to be invested in the minor leagues,
right?
Because that's where 90% of the talent is right now. And not just talent. I mean, it's the big names, like you said. Everyone but DL is going to be there. I'm just looking at the list now. It's Adley, it's Grayson, it's Gunnar, it's Colton, it's Westberg, it's Heston, Kyle Bradish, Connor Norby. These guys are exciting and fun players to not only watch and pay attention to. I mean, this is the future. We've been building this up for years and years and years, it seems like, and now it's like, again, if you're not going to a couple Bay Sox games, if there's no major league season, for the early part, then you really are missing out. Again, even head up to Aberdeen, go to Delmarva, go to those places. I know Norfolk's a little far, but make the road trip out there. I'm super excited though for the minor league and again to just see where Grayson starts, and how these guys progress. And like I'm very excited to see what Colton Cowser does in a full season of minor league ball. There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about the minor league season.
Oh, absolutely. Let's get into that a little bit. Fangraphs is the latest publication to come out with their prospect rankings. They've got 6 Orioles in their top 100. Adley Rutschman, of course, number 1. Grayson Rodriguez ranked as high as number 3. DL Hall at 27. Colton Cowser, who you just mentioned, at 40. Gunnar Henderson at 66, and Kobe Mayo at 69. Starting with Grayson Rodriguez, how awesome is it to see him ranked so highly, and how good do you think he can be?
I love seeing him ranked that high because, again, for years and years and years, it was the Orioles can't develop a pitcher. We saw it. We saw the road bumps that they came into with Bundy and Gossman, and obviously what Gossman has done now is awesome. But there's been that, ever since Eric Bedard, they haven't been able to grow, Bedard, Musina, one of those guys, they haven't been able to grow a talent, pitching talent. And Grayson seems to be just shattering that. He hopefully he makes us forget all about the Cavalry and everyone else like that, because it seems to me, and not just me, because my opinion doesn't count for crap, but all the big baseball writers and everyone around the sport, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
You see how high he is ranked on all these lists and the things people are writing about him, and he seems like the absolute real deal. I saw him pitch, I think, twice last year at Bowie. I hope that they kind of let him go a little longer into games. Maybe we see him go over that, or even get near the 100-pitch mark, sometime this season, because obviously it's well known they didn't let him do that last year. I'm really excited to see him, and I really do think we'll see him up in Baltimore at some point. But again, if you haven't gone down to Bowie and seen him pitch, I know last year I think he hit 103 on the radar gun a handful of times in his first start there. So I would make it a point to get down there and see him if you haven't.
Yeah, I don't know how involved you were with it. I know you were there, but how much of spearheading did you do on that gas up game that they had with him down there?
So I think I helped coin the term because, like, so again, I would just see them all tweeting about each other. Obviously, Grayson and DL are all friends, and Adley, they're all buddies. Gunnar, throw Gunnar in there. They're all really good friends. And so when DL would do something, Grayson would retweet it. And then, Grayson, and then DL would say something back. So I was just like, oh, look at these guys. They're gassing each other up. I'd throw the gas can emoji on there. They're all gassing each other up. And then that's when our buddy Ryan Blake, I think when it was announced that Grayson was starting, he said something like, hey, can we bring our gas cans to the game? And I texted Ryan right away. I was like, yo, I'm 100% going to see if we can do this. Let me text someone I know with the Bay Sox, and let's see what we can do. And it came together super quick. So it was a nice group effort between, I think, Ryan and myself and just everyone else in Orioles Twitter kind of catching on. Because, I know I talked to Grayson about it, and he's like, yeah, I'd open up my Twitter after a game, and my mentions would just be full of gas cans.
That's awesome.
And it's like, that's what we want. We want something fun like that. We're trying to, get something fun like this going. So I'm happy it caught on. I don't know if they're going to let us do it every game. I think it would be fun if he's down in Bowie. I could 100% see him not starting in Bowie, but if he's in Bowie for that opening night, I'm going to petition again to see if they'll let us bring gas cans into the ballpark.
Yeah, man, they got to put you on payroll. I think you were solely responsible for getting 6,000 people to that ballpark last summer. That was
an
so
awesome
cool.
night. It was like a Tuesday night, and yeah, I think they said there was like 5,000 or 6,000 there. It was a great crowd.
Yeah, it was not. Unfortunately, I wasn't there because I had to work, and I found out about it too late. But from everything I heard, it was just an awesome, amazing experience. Now, you talked about Grayson and how you're hoping that they're going to let him go through a lineup a third time and get over that 100 pitch threshold. We had Kevin Goldstein on Glenn Clark Radio the other day, and he helped compile the Fangraphs top 100 in the Orioles' 6 prospects. He didn't put a lot of stock into Gray Rod's lack of innings because he says no pitcher in the minor leagues has taken the hill 32 times and throwing 180 innings in a year. They're all kind of at the same level. With that in mind, does that get you more enthusiastic, if you can even be much more enthusiastic about Grayson Rodriguez?
Yeah, and that's a good point. Again, I mean, you don't see these minor league guys making 30, 31, 32 starts, which is something I never even really thought of. But yeah, I mean, and I don't know. Again, if it was like a philosophy thing with the organization and Elias, I don't know if it was just hey, just for Grayson or just for any of these top guys, don't let him get 100. Maybe, I mean, they're just trying to stretch him out. But again, I mean, his numbers just don't lie. He only threw 103 innings last year, but 161 strikeouts.
Right.
It says something. And again, I mean, the 23 starts, it's good. It shows that they're building him up a little bit, but yeah, it's. I'm not too concerned that they're not letting him go at the 100 pitch mark or through the lineup the third time. I think they know what they're doing with him. I think they're just kind of handling him with bubble wrap right now.
Yeah, as they should be. Just because the injury risk with all pitchers these days, all the torque on their arm thrown, like you said, he hit 103 at one point a few times last year. You got to be careful with the arm, so I get it. Now, you even mentioned him. You can't mention Grayson Rodriguez without mentioning DL Hall. They're kind of almost like a package deal when you talk about one and then the other. This seems like a year, Eric. It's DL Hall's 5th year, going into his 5th year in this organization. I get it. He's a guy out of high school, so he's still young. But he's never thrown more than 90 in the third innings in a season. Last year, just a 7 starts and the 32 innings, striking out 16 batters per 9 innings. But he gets that stress reaction in his elbow, misses the rest of the season. How big is this year for DL Hall? Kevin Goldstein of Fangraphs said that he's a high relief risk, meaning he has a good chance of becoming a reliever. How badly do the Orioles need him to stick in this rotation?
I think they definitely need him to. And like you said, I mean, we had DL on the podcast this week, and so I was going over, his Wikipedia. I was looking at a bunch of his high school stats, and I was looking back, and I was like, holy crap, that's right. This is his 5th year. He was drafted in 2017. That's a long time ago. And It's like, yeah, it's we're not getting close to the crap or get off the pot, but it's, I mean, again, 5 years. You would kind of expect a guy like that to be up, and obviously with the COVID year, that's a wash. And he's battled through the injuries, and last year was a bummer because I mean the way he started out, you were like, this guy's gonna be in Camden Yards this year, like there's 100% he'll be there. And then obviously, but the injury was tough because it was announced that it was like, oh, they're gonna take some time off, they're gonna let him heal. And then obviously we all know what happened, and it turned into that stress reaction, and we never saw him again, and for good reason. I mean, there was no reason to push him,
right,
and make that injury even worse because again, he didn't have to have surgery, didn't do anything. He just had to rehab it. And I know he said it was a long, lengthy rehab. I know he told us it had been 6 months between throwing a baseball for him, which is, he said, by far the longest he's ever gone without throwing a baseball. And again, I mean, that's, to think about that, it's scary. Again, you have a top 3 prospect in your organization. He'd be a top prospect in a lot of other teams' camps. But if your number 3 guy went six months without throwing a pitch, I mean, it's scary. And like we said, I mean, he's 23. He's again, his 5th year. This is a huge year for him because this is the year that we're expected to see Grayson, we're expected to see Adley, we're expected to see some of these other guys jump up into the majors. So I would love to see him with Grayson. I mean, it would be awesome to see them go up together. And the big knock, as we all know, on the Orioles, their prospects is they have the 2 big guys, and then their pitching guys. There's not much else. Like you said, there may be some bullpen arms. So if he falls into that bullpen arm category, that may take some excitement away from like, this farm system is number 1, this farm system's top 3, because then it kind of drops down to, well, he's just a reliever. Well, he's a 2 or 3 inning guy. And again, you're not drafting high school kids in the first round to be a reliever, a 2 or 3 inning guy. If he turns into a Josh Hader, that's a different story. Or, an Andrew Miller in his prime. But they drafted him to be one, I said something to him the other day. I said, you were drafted before Grayson, so you're kind of the big guy. You're kind of the senior in the class. And, they drafted him and Grayson to be that 1 and 2. So that's ideally what you want from him. And so, I mean, I'm still holding out hope that he can be a legitimate, 2 or 3 starter. It's just this year and his health, it's going to be a big one for him.
Yeah, man, and like we were saying, he got off to that tremendous start, 16 strikeouts per 9 innings, 15.9, but we can round up to 16. How much of this, and look, I know you're not a doctor and you don't even play one on TV, but how much of this stress reaction you think is on him just trying to gas up too much? Maybe he needs to stop trying to throw 100 and can throw 95 and be effective with all of his other secondary pitches. How much do you think that has an impact on what he's doing?
Yeah, I mean, it very well could. Again, and that's kind of what scares me if he does become a reliever, because we've seen some of those guys who, if you're coming in for 1 inning, you're going to let it eat. The big dog's going to eat. You're going to give it all you got. As opposed to a starter where, hey, I'm going to be out here for 6 or 7. I don't have to go 100% on every pitch. I don't, you don't have to tip 99, 94, 95 is okay.
Right.
So maybe that was it, again, maybe it was the adrenaline, him being out, he's back out there with his buddies. I know he was at the camp, in 2020, but they basically missed a full season. So he's back out on the mound. His adrenaline is just bumping. And maybe he was getting up there and chucking it and, looking up at the radar gun a little bit. And again, I mean, it's hard to fault any kid for kind of being exciting and wanting to get out there and show, your manager and your friends and your teammates and the fans, hey, here's what I can do. It's just at times we have to know, like, hey, we don't need you to throw 99. We need you to make 20 starts, for AA and probably bump you up to AAA and maybe even the bigs this year. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Maybe he was all jazzed up and was trying to throw it as hard as he could, but I'm not sure.
And for what Zach has talked about, he has all the pitches. He kind of lacks the command for the strike zone right now. Maybe by taking a little bit off the gas to get longer in the games, he can find the strike zone a little bit more and kind of expedite his process to the major leagues. Somebody who's really expediting his process in the prospect rankings is Kobe Mayo. And the Orioles, they took him in the 4th round in 2020. They gave him a 7-figure signing bonus to take him and get him to forego his commitment to college. He's ranked number 69 on Fangraphs' top 100. He's been projected by some to be maybe the best offensive prospect in baseball by this time next season. What are your thoughts on Kobe Mayo, and how much are you looking forward to seeing his first full season in pro ball?
I'm just drooling thinking about a full season of Kobe Mayo hitting home runs. He's, again, I mean, I'm drinking the same Kool-Aid everyone else is with him. I love, when I saw him at 69 on Fangraphs, I think wasn't he just one of the first ones out on Keith Law's list,
yeah.
I believe, or one of those lists?
Yeah, I think it was Keith Law's.
Yeah, I know he was, on the next 5 in or whatever. It's great. I mean, again, it stinks at the time when a team goes under slot and people just crap on the decision and say, "Whoa, they're cheap, blah blah blah." And Kobe Mayo is one of the perfect examples to look at because, like you said, he was slated to go to Florida. I'm sure he thought he was going to go to Florida. They draft Heston. You save some money there. I think that was the same draft, right? The 2020 draft. Yeah. They draft Heston. They go under slot, and then they get him later on, and it's like, this is why you draft Heston Kjerstad number 2. Yet you get a really good player, and guess what? You do save a chunk of change, and you can end up getting, like you said, arguably one of the best offensive prospects in the minors, possibly next year. That's why you do it. And it seems to, obviously we don't know. It seems like it's going to work out for them because again, the MLB has him listed as 6'5", 215. He's probably bigger and weighs more than that. He's going to be an offensive force, and I'm very excited to see him. And again, it's just kind of he's just one of the good examples to show these people who kind of clown on the underslot just to say a team is cheap. They're not cheap. The teams know what they're doing. And again, you can find a guy like Kobe Mayo later on who probably wouldn't have gone to college, or he would have gone to college. But hey, guess what? You had some extra pennies to give to him, and now again, you've got an absolute weapon. A guy who, I mean, he's built like a refrigerator. He's just a massive person, and hopefully he's going to hit baseballs. I'm here to say I hope Kobe Mayo, he's going to make us forget about the left field fence getting pushed back.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that none of his home runs would have changed with that left field fence pushback. So I'm very excited for him. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch the next couple of years.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's awesome that just about everybody else around baseball is as high on this guy. I think Keith Law is the only one that doesn't mention him. People are very high on Kobe Mayo. I'm very excited to see what he's going to do. Now, you mentioned the wall. We haven't talked about the wall in a couple of weeks. We certainly haven't talked about it with you. What are your thoughts on them pushing that wall back, raising the height of it to 12 feet? A lot of people are worried about home run robberies. You see most of your home run robberies, though, in center field anyway. Are you really that upset about this wall being pushed back?
I feel like I was one of the people who was kind of defending the wall.
Yeah, I was too.
I didn't mind it. And I didn't mind it because it wasn't like Mike Elias and Sig and them came out were like, we want to change something, so we're going to push the wall back.
Right.
And it's like, well, why? We don't really know. We're just going to do it. It's like, no, you heard them talk about it, and they have these stats, and they have everything to back it up. And obviously, I don't know Mike Elias, but reading and seeing everything he does, he's not just doing this on like a whim. It's like he knows what he's doing, and again, if they think it's going to help the ball club, they're going to do it. And again, like they pointed out, we all know free agent pitchers don't want to come here. They don't, and I don't blame them. So if this helps get 1, 2, 3 guys over a couple years, absolutely. Like, why would you not want to do this? And I get people being upset, being like, it's Camden Yards. This is one of the best ballparks in the country. Why would they change it? It's like, yeah, it does. Cosmetically and optically, it's going to look weird for a while. I think in a couple years, we're not even going to remember it. And again, at the end of the day, it's a wall. I had someone tweet at me and say, the Orioles will never win a World Series after they push the wall back.
That's
and I
ridiculous.
said, if you think that, you got to stop watching this sport then. Like that's, I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. That was one of the more insane things. I don't mind it though. I think it's going to look weird at first. Yes, I get it. But again, if it helps get some free agent pitchers come in, it's fine. And I think I also saw someone pointed out, I think 9 of the top 10 Orioles hitting prospects are lefties. So again, it's like it's going to affect some of the guys they currently have with Mountcastle and some of the switch hitters. But I never lost sleep over the wall. Again, me and you, Paul, I think we're two of the defenders of it.
Yeah, it's going to help you bring in free agent pitchers, and I think that's the main reason. I don't think it's because of what their pitching staff did last year. I think the main reason is because they know they're going to have to bring in free agent pitchers, and if you get one of the 3 deepest ballparks in baseball now out of it, pitchers aren't going to mind pitching at Camden Yards anymore. And you have to look at how this regime drafts, and they draft college bats with low strikeout rates and high walk rates that can spray the ball all over the field. I think it actually makes the Orioles a better hitting team because they know, you know what, maybe unless I really get into it, and you get into it just by putting a good swing on the ball, I'm not necessarily going to hit a home run here. Maybe try to drive the gaps or put one down the line. I think it's going to make them a better hitting team overall. Now, one last question before we let you go, Eric, and we really appreciate your time this morning. It's been a great interview here. Keith Law was quite bullish on Joey Ortiz. He says he looked like a completely different player last year. He changed his swing. He added more power with the wood bat. He said that he would graduate him into his top 100 prospects next year, but he really believes that if he continues his progression, he'll be the Orioles starting shortstop at some point this summer. What are your thoughts on that opinion?
I was not floored when I read that, but I was super excited. And because I remember his super hot start before he got hurt last year. And it really, that was one of the guys that it really sucks to see him get hurt because again, he was a guy who he wasn't one of these big name guys that we've been following with these prospects. He kind of came out of nowhere, and played really well. And I think was he an underslot guy too? I know he was. I can't remember exactly, but I
think he was a 4th-round draft pick. I don't know if he was an underslot.
He was 4th round, yeah.
Yeah. So 4th round again, probably not an underslot, but again, he wasn't one of the big horses.
Right.
And so when he came on, it was like, holy crap, who is this guy? And when we had Grayson on the podcast, I had asked him. I said, we know about you, we know about Adley, we know about DL, Kyle Stowers, some of these big name guys. Who was one guy that really surprised you last year? And he said Joey Ortiz. And I think he said the same thing Keith did before Keith's article even came out. I think Grayson was like, I thought at one point that he was going to be up in Baltimore, because that's how well he was playing at the beginning of last year. So yeah, I'm super excited. And again, that's kind of just another diamond in the rough. I know fourth round isn't like, you know, he's not Tom Brady, 199, but a fourth round pick. It's not. We knew the talent was there. I'm super excited to see again what he can do with a full. I hope he just stays healthy. If we get another full healthy season out of him, again, I don't think Baltimore is out of the option for this year. So let's. Yeah. I hope Joey Ortiz is a name that we're saying a lot in the next couple of months.
Yeah, and there's nobody blocking him right now. Maybe in a couple of years when you get Gunner and Westberg up there, but right now there's nobody blocking him. So, Eric, how can people follow you on social media?
I'm on Twitter at EDITTI22. Got all my blogs and stuff over at Barstool Sports. Instagram is just my name. I just reviewed that new Starlight Coke. I don't know if you saw that or had that yet.
I haven't.
Save your money. Don't get it. I don't know if Coke's a sponsor. If they are, I'm sorry.
They aren't.
Yeah. So I'll be posting 100,000 times a day until baseball comes back, and just trying to get everyone through this lockout.
Awesome. Eric, always great to talk to you. Love your enthusiasm. You make the show easy for us. We'll talk to you again down the line. All right, my man.
Thanks, boys. Let's meet up soon.
All right. Take care.
Have a good one.
That was Eric Arditti from Barstool Sports. Gracious enough to join us again. Like I just said, man, he makes the show easy. You get to talk to people that are that enthusiastic about baseball. And like I said, cut from the same cloth as guys like you and me. It's always fun to have him on the show. Always fun to talk about him. To talk with him on the show about baseball. Speaking of this show, we're well into the second hour. The first hour is brought to you by Pressbox's print edition with Gary Williams on the cover.
The newest edition of Pressbox is available now. On the cover, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland men's basketball 2002 NCAA Tournament Championship, as Gary Williams reflects on how the program rose from the ashes of the NCAA sanctions to the pinnacle of the sport, and why his perspectives of the title run has changed now 2 decades later. Plus, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, and the rest of the team relive moments that ultimately led to them cutting down the nets in Atlanta. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farms stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
All right, when we come back in here on the Batter Round, we're going to do our Orioles banter segment, the minor league players that we're looking forward to seeing the most and what we're expecting out of them for this year. That and more when we come back on the Batter Round.
Glory Days Grill's winter seasonal menu is back with comfort classics like their house-made meatloaf and short rib grilled cheese. It also features the center-cut sirloin with grilled shrimp, the char-grilled pork tenderloin, grilled meatloaf sandwich, smoky thigh wings with Alabama barbecue sauce, and a Brussels and bacon appetizer. All of these items pair well with Devil's Backbone 8-point IPA or their anniversary IPA brewed by Devil's Backbone. And try their seasonal cocktails, Blood Orange Bourbon Cider, Apple Ginger Mule, and Captain's Hot Cider. Find out more and get your order in today at glorydaysgrill.com. Great food, good sports.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
After being virtual in 2021, the CIAA Men's and Women's Basketball Tournament is headed to Charm City this February 22nd through 26th. The CIAA is an event that has become a celebration of family, culture, and accomplishments that uplift and strengthen the African American community. See the excitement in person as some of the best college basketball in the country comes to Baltimore's Royal Farms Arena with the CIAA Men's and Women's Conference Tournament. Get your tickets now at CIAAtournament.org. That's CIAAtournament.org.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and Paul Valley every Wednesday morning at 11:30. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all the info you need and even to offer a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio and watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
The newest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland men's basketball's 2002 NCAA Tournament Championship, as Gary Williams reflects on how the program rose from the ashes of NCAA sanctions to the pinnacle of the sport, and why his perspective of the title run has changed now 2 decades later. Plus, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, and the rest of the team relive the moments that ultimately led them to cutting down the nets in Atlanta. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farms stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Welcome back into the Bat Around, which is brought to you today by Underdog Fantasy. We can bet on sports in Maryland, but still can't bet online or on our phones. However, you can feel like you're betting totally legally and right on your phone by playing on the Underdog Fantasy app. Player props, parlays, and traditional fantasy games are available. And even though football season has ended, Underdog has great basketball and hockey games available. And hopefully baseball contests will return before too long, hopefully. Plus, we're going to give you some free money to play with thanks to our friends at Underdog Fantasy. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the Underdog Fantasy app. Use the code PRESSBOX. And whenever you download up to $100, we will match. That's right, up to $100 when you use the code PRESSBOX with Underdog Fantasy. It says Fantasy Football. I'm guessing that's what you had to put in. But, yeah, so Underdog. Go win some money there. Orioles Banter. This is a segment I was looking forward to the most because minor league spring training starts on Monday, and that's where all eyes in Baltimore are going to be turning for baseball fans because that's all we have right now. And honestly, it might even be more exciting than Orioles spring training anyway because the best players in their system are going to be at minor league spring training. We're talking Grayson Rodriguez. We're talking Adley Rutschman, Kobe Mayo, Colton Cowser, Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westbrook, Joey Ortiz, Carter Baumler, Maverick Hanley, all these guys, man. Really, really looking forward to the minor league spring training getting started this Monday. And with that in mind, Zach, who are some players that you're looking at this spring that you want to see have big years and kind of force the Orioles' hand?
You mean for a possible major league debut?
Anything.
Yeah,
maybe
okay.
rising higher than we thought. Like last year, for example, Jordan Westbrook was not in the major league plans.
No.
But he got all the way up. He played at 3 different levels last year and is probably going to start, I would imagine, at Double-A, but move up to Norfolk pretty quickly with a good start. Somebody like that, or a guy that you think could make his way into the major league roster.
Well, I've mentioned them before on this team, but some guys like John Pinto is a really quality pitcher who was acquired to trade a few years ago, and a guy who could possibly move up a few levels. I don't know if he makes his major league debut this year, but he's certainly a guy I believe only 20 years old at this point. Who has been a quick riser. Zach Peak, same thing, another guy acquired through a trade. And has been a very quick riser. So those two are two of the arms that I'm looking at for sure. Kobe Mayo, I get the hype around him. He's a great athlete. The power's real. He's everything. He's everything in one package. I definitely want to see how he fares at Bowie and Norfolk. I think those are going to be big steps for him if he makes it to Norfolk.
Yeah, I think his ceiling would probably, unless he's just hitting 350 at every level, dropping bombs. I can't imagine making it to Norfolk this year.
With the way people talk about him, I expect it, honestly. I expect him to make it to Norfolk because, people are crowning this guy the next great offensive prospect in baseball. So I want to see it, right? Like, I want to legitimately see that. And I'm excited to see Mayo because the guy has such raw power and the arm is unbelievable. And we'll see how he fares at third base. Obviously, Eric Garfield is one of the biggest proponents that he can stick there. And I'll trust Eric's opinion because he's seen him hundreds of times down there in Florida. So, Kobe Mayo is definitely one of the big storylines, of course. It's guys like that are maybe some of these not quite first, second round, third round draft picks, but the guys that were a little later on. Zach Peak, I believe, by the Angels was like a 5th round, 4th round pick, something like that. So it's these kind of guys I'm excited to see. It's not the cream of the crop like your Adley Rutschmans and your Grayson Rodriguez. Sure, I'm excited to see them, but I'm not excited to see them like some of these up-and-comers that are potential breakout prospects this year. And I think those three are 3 that I'm really looking at. And I do want to mention on Joey Ortiz because you just talked about him.
You were stealing all my thunder, man. You just keep going.
All right, well, I'll quit here, so I'll let you get your word in. But I definitely want to – I have a point on Ortiz I want to make.
No, go ahead. I'm just giving you a hard time.
No, if you look at Ortiz's numbers from last year, I mean, I get what Keith Law is saying. I get it. It's just not backed up by the numbers. I mean, they were fine. Like, you look at the Aberdeen numbers, he hit 290, 816 OPS, but he didn't hit a single home run, and he only had 7 doubles. I mean,
How many games though? It wasn't a ton.
It was 19 games.
Yeah, that's
But
not a lot.
It's not a lot, but it's a small sample size, sure. But I'm hearing, Keith saying, "Oh, how well he was playing," and that it was just like this change, and he was unbelievable. And the numbers don't reflect that necessarily. So I'm a little bit confused.
290 average and 816 OPS. I mean,
and then he played 16 games in Bowie as well. And his OPS was 780, so not
far
awful,
off.
not awful. I don't know. I think Keith Law is a little bit too hyped up on Joey Ortiz.
You can never really say Keith Law is too hyped up on players in the Orioles system because and he actually takes shots at the fan base with regards to that, saying that people don't like him in Baltimore. That's because like last year he had Grayson Rodriguez ranked like 44th, and everybody else had him ranked like 10th. But that's neither here nor there. You look at a guy. I don't put a lot of stock into those numbers that you just read off, just because of the fact that a guy like Gunnar Henderson, who we think is going to be a major league quality player at worst, he started like over 27.
Yeah,
when he got his way up to Aberdeen last year. So
my point is that he talks about this big change that Ortiz made and that he got so much better. And the numbers don't just necessarily reflect that.
Well,
That's
he said that he in New Mexico State when he was playing there in college, he had a ton of power, but it was all metal bat power.
And
then when he switched to the wood bat, he struggled mightily.
New Mexico State also has this reputation for being the easiest college ballpark to hit in. It's because the air is so thin, obviously, out there, and not only that, it's small, it's tiny. It's like if you look at it, the place is tiny. It is easy to hit in, and there are often guys that hit 400, 450 in that ballpark because they're just so. It's just such an easy ballpark to hit the ball in.
Yeah, but for me, Joey Ortiz is towards the top of my list just because of what Keith Law said, and I think it could be he and Cesar Prieto. I kind of put them 1A, 1B. Maybe not 1A, 1B, but I put them right next to each other in the players I want to see because I think that both of these guys, based on what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, could be the Orioles' middle infield by the middle of the season.
Possibly.
When we had Dan Connolly on last week, he said, and it just goes to show how little I think of Rougned Odor because I didn't even put him in my notes. I didn't even think about Rougned Odor, and Dan Connolly's
he's a
sitting
nothing
there.
Piece.
He's sitting there saying he's going to be their everyday second baseman until Michael Franco's his way out of here.
Yeah.
So the 2 home runs he hits every week will be nice, but
I guess.
but the 15 strikeouts he has every week is not going to be nice. The glove might be good, but I'd rather, if all things are equal, see Ortiz and Prieto up the middle by July and see what they can give for the Orioles this year.
I was at a baseball game this week, and there were some guys behind me talking about Rougned Odor, and the guy said, well, he might hit 198 and give you 20 home runs. And I think that's about the exact outlook that you can give for a guy like that. If he hits 20 home runs, great, but he's probably going to hit like under 200 and not drive in that many runs and not really be a force, and his OPS will probably be in the 500 or 600 level. And that's not a major league quality baseball
You just
player.
hope that the Orioles, with their advanced analytics, can get him back to what he was around 2015.
Yeah.
I would take that, but I don't have a lot of hope for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
So on Prieto, though, I know a lot of people are really confident. I think that from what I've heard, the Cuban League has been very diluted in talent from previous years, and it's not exactly. Yeah, he was the best hitter there, which is something obviously to say, and it's important, but it's not as important as it would have been like 10 years ago because the talent there just isn't as good apparently, is what I've heard. So maybe we can't put that much into that, and we'll have to see obviously how he does at the minor league level. I'm maybe not as high on him as other people. I think he could become a starting second baseman and a quality one, but I think his ceiling is that. I don't think he's much more than a pretty average starting second baseman.
Well, here's the thing. What opened my eyes to him was people were drawing comparisons to Nick Madrigal, and
and the Orioles said that specifically.
I love Nick Madrigal.
Yeah.
I said that I would love it. The Orioles traded Anthony Santander and got Madrigal back because you can have a ton of home run hitters in your lineup, but you also need guys that can get on base, put the ball in play, and that's what a Madrigal does. And if Prieto can be sort of that kind of player, I'm excited to see what he can bring. And I'm into fitness and working out and everything like that. Prieto keeps himself in phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
You don't. It takes a certain kind of discipline to be in that kind of shape. And to me, I see a guy who's disciplined enough to hit the gym like that and to eat the way he's supposed to eat. I guarantee you, he puts that same emphasis and focus on his game, and that's probably why he's such a good hitter. So I'm excited to see what he can do. The biggest one The biggest one though is DL Hall.
It's a big deal.
That's the guy that this CBA, these negotiations, this lockout, it's the hardest on players like DL Hall, who got added to the 40-man roster. Otherwise, they would have been, and he probably would have been the first pick overall in the Rule 5 draft if they had one and he hadn't been protected by the Orioles. That guy's going 1-1. Nobody's not taking a chance on him. I look at a guy like DL Hall. He's on the 40-man, so he can't go to spring training. He can't go to minor league spring training until this is all figured out. And this is a guy who needs a big bounce-back year. Yeah, the numbers were phenomenal, but they were in 7 starts until the stress reaction on his elbow. This is a guy that needs spring training, that needs as much action as he can get.
Yeah.
And he's going to be sitting on the side. I mean, obviously, he's a professional athlete. He's going to be putting his work in, putting his time in. But it's not the same as being at spring training with your guys and working through things and facing live batters and stuff like that. He can maybe go face a high school team, but what really is he going to learn from that?
Right.
You know?
I mean, it's certainly a negative. And we talked about DL Hall with Eric a few minutes ago, that the reliever risk is really high. And the fact that he hasn't really shown consistent command of any of his pitches in the past few years. So there's definitely a lot of risk with DL Hall. And I will say right now, I think my prediction for him long term is he will become a reliever. That would be my prediction, because I usually like to not be optimistic. I think that's generally the way that I like to think about things. Is I don't want to be too optimistic, because you get expectations and then you get let down by them sometimes with baseball players.
And look, you look at a guy like a Zach Britton and Andrew Miller,
sure.
And these are and Josh Hader,
all
the stuff in the world, and they were expected to be starters. The next thing you know, they are shut down, locked down closers, and you can make a really nice career. I mean, Mariano Rivera is the only unanimous Hall of Fame guy in the Hall of Fame, and he was a closer. So look, DL Hall can make a nice. Can make a nice career for himself here, but I look at Hunter Harvey, and if you're spending first-round draft picks on 2 guys within 4 years to be starting pitchers, and they both end up becoming full-time relievers, that's a fail.
I disagree.
I think it's a fail when you have a guy who throws 4 pitches like DL Hall does, throws as hard as he does, and he's a lefty. That's a dude that should be in your starting rotation, and we talked to Dan Connolly about it last week. He thinks that DL Hall is still. He knows that DL Hall is still in the Orioles' plans as a starter. This is the year for him to prove that he can stay healthy and get after it.
Yes, I disagree with your notion on that. It's a fail. It's not a fail if he makes the majors. That's simple. It's as simple as that to me. Where a fail is if you draft a guy in the first round and he doesn't make the majors. That's definitely a fail. But if he makes the majors and he becomes a reliever and any kind of quality reliever, I think that's a win for you. I mean, any guy you draft, he makes the majors. I mean, most of the guys you draft don't ever make the majors. So it's to me, it's a positive. Even if he becomes an average reliever, that's still good.
He's going to make most first round picks make the
majority.
Majors. They make the majors. They may not stay, but they make it because they were taking the first round, so they're going to get their chance. I look at a guy like DL Hall, and the reason I say it's a fail, Zach, is because he's supposed to be in your starting rotation. And the Orioles have, in my opinion, the Orioles have guys on their roster that can be electric shutdown closers.
Yeah.
I look at if Tanner Scott can bounce back. I look at Tyler Wells. These guys, they can be your shutdown closers. I'd rather get 6 innings out of DL Hall in my rotation than 1 inning every 3 days out of him out of the bullpen. So,
I don't disagree.
So maybe it's not a fail, but it's a letdown. If DL Hall becomes anything other than at worst a number 3 starter, it's a fail to me.
But I think a great example, on the contrary, is Archie Bradley. I mean, Archie Bradley was one of the best high school pitchers at the time, drafted with Dylan Bundy in that, I believe it was 2011 draft, if I'm right on that. And Bradley became a pretty decent closer for Arizona for a few years there, and he became a really decent relief pitcher. And I mean, they didn't draft him expecting him to be that, but he became that and was a valuable piece. And that's the way I look at it. If that's what DL Hall is, that's still a win. I mean, I look back at Alex Jackson, if you remember him. He was drafted 6th overall in 2014 by the Mariners, and a guy that was a catcher with massive power, and he was supposed to be this just phenom. And he was actually, they considered him, I think, at 1st overall, whoever was picking that year. It might have been the Astros. I think it was, actually. And Jackson ended up pretty much flaming out in the majors. He played this year for Miami for 42 games, and he hit 157. I mean, the guy is not good. He's never going to be a good Major League Baseball player. But even that, I look at as a win because Alex Jackson made the major leagues, right? Like there are guys.
It's not a win. Just getting there doesn't count.
I disagree. I disagree. I think that's still a positive for your organization.
So you think that DJ Stewart being on the Orioles roster is a positive?
I don't think it is now, but the fact that he made the majors at all is still a positive. Yeah.
I don't look. If you're drafted in the first round, you should make the majors. Anything less is a failure. And
but there's so many guys that don't. That's what I'm saying.
Getting up here, yeah. But I mean, there's 1,000 guys drafted every year. I mean, getting up here and then taking a fly ball off the head and hitting a home run and striking out 12 times in a row, to me, is not a success. It's we brought you up here because you're a first round pick and we got to see what you have, but you failed. That DJ Stewart as a first round pick is a failure. It's a fail. Yeah, you can't convince me.
But is it the same
otherwise.
kind of failure as the 6th overall pick in 2015, Tyler J, who we've never even heard of, right? Like,
no, but it's still a fail. There's different levels of failing. You can get a 59 on the test, and somebody can get a 6 on the test. You both fail, but you got 53 points higher than that person did on the test. It's still a fail.
Yes and no.
Nothing about DJ Stewart, except for his OBP, is a win for the Orioles, and he can't hit a fastball. The guy can't hit a fastball.
Yeah, I mean, there's just I'm just looking at the 2015 draft, just for example. I mean, you go through this list: Tyler J, Cornelius Randolph, Trenton Clark, Brady Aikens. Brady Aikens, a famous case. He actually didn't sign with that year with Cleveland. I mean, there's so many guys: Ash Russell, Bo Burrows. I mean, Taylor Ward. Who are these guys? These are all first-round draft picks. DJ Stewart was in that.
Bo Burrows was once a top prospect for the Kansas City Royals, and I think he's in the majors now.
Is he?
Okay.
I
think he's at least been to the. I think he's been to the majors, but again, this was a guy who was supposed to be a top offensive prospect.
Exactly.
And it's a fail. If you get drafted in the first round and you get to the majors and you fizzle out pretty quickly, that's not a win.
So Bo Burrows has played 11 games in the majors, and he has a 10.7 ERA to show for it. So yeah,
10.70. I thought he was a hitter.
No, he's a pitcher.
Who am I thinking of?
There's probably another Bo. Bo Naylor, maybe.
That's I think that's who I'm thinking.
Bo Naylor for Cleveland. Yeah,
that might be it. But to me, I look at being a first round pick and simply making it to the majors for that person, for that player. Yeah, you achieved your dream. You made it to the major leagues. For the organization, you got there and you didn't stick. That's a wasted draft pick. That's an absolute wasted draft pick.
Fair enough.
Now, and then speaking of DL Hall, it's not going to be, if he becomes a shutdown closer for the Orioles, that's not a fail. I probably spoke out of turn there. That's not a fail because they got a quality pitcher out of that.
It's just not what you expected.
But it's not what you expected. It's not what he was supposed to be. And a guy who's going to become an elite closer isn't ranked 27th on a top 100 list to be a closer. He's ranked 27th to be a legitimate left-handed starting pitcher. Especially when we talked to J.J. Cooper, and he said that sometime by next year with a good season, DL Hall could be the number one pitching prospect in baseball because everybody knows Rodriguez is probably graduating this year. But the whole DL Hall thing, and if he doesn't pan out, we've heard it from so many people so many times that the Orioles have nothing after Hall and Rodriguez as far as starters. That's why this next list of starters is who I really want to see a lot out of. And I'm talking about Dean Kramer, and I'm talking about Michael Ballman and Kyle Bradish and Kevin Smith. And then on the lower levels, Zach Peak and Drew Rahm and
Drew Rahm's another great example.
And John Pinto, like you mentioned, and another guy that we haven't really talked about too much. What was his name? He pitched for Arkansas.
Blaine Knight.
Blaine Knight.
Yeah.
These are guys that, and Blaine Knight, to his credit, he started out his minor league career on fire. Yeah. He went up to Frederick, and he was not good.
Yeah.
Then he came out last year, and he pitched really well, and he got promoted to AAA, and he was not good. This is one of those guys who kind of adjusts, and I want to see the adjustments that he makes. And I'm also interested to see, when Rutschman got to Norfolk, their entire rotation got better. So for me, I want to see these guys pitching to Rodriguez in camp. I want to see what they can do in minor league camp. Once Major League Spring Training gets going, call them over, see what they can do there, and then see if they can help your Major League club. These pitchers are going to be the lifeblood of this organization at some point because we know that they have the hitters. Everybody knows they have the hitters in this organization.
Yeah.
It's what's going to happen with the pitching, and are they going to go out and have to spend $25, $30 million a year on a starting pitcher in free agency because they just don't have the arms in their system?
The reality is no, because they won't be able to. I think that's the reality of it. And I
What do you mean they won't be able to?
I don't think the Orioles will be able to spend 25 to 30 million on a guy. I just don't see it. I know they did it with Davis, but I just don't. And he was about 20 million, I think, per year. I just don't see these kind of contracts ever really being given out by the Orioles. I don't see it.
You either adapt or die.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think we're looking more in like the 15-20 range as opposed to like 25, 30. But with inflation and everything and salaries going up, then you might be right.
You also have to think about the fact that the Orioles in 2016, 2017, 2015, their payrolls was above 160 million.
It was, yeah.
So
but it's still middle of the pack, though.
Right, but it was top half. It was top half of the league.
It was like a 15, yeah.
Yeah, they said, look, when we're ready, we're going to go spend the money. I don't think that this is a Tampa Bay Rays organization.
Not definitely not that low.
I really don't.
I
think that they're going to have, I don't know, Garrett Cole and Shohei Ohtani in their rotation? No, but I think they might get a couple guys from that next tier. Somebody's going to command 25 million a year. I think they'll get somebody like that because they're going to have to. If you put all this, if you invest this much in a rebuild and you're pushing your wall back because we know you're doing because you have to go get free agent starters. Yeah. You're not just going to keep signing Jordan Lyles in the offseason. You got to go get people that can take the bump for you every fifth day and give you a legitimate chance to win. And look, you're going to have Grayson Rodriguez for about 5 years on a smaller deal, until unless you extend him quickly.
That's your competitive window right there.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The part of this rebuild is that they don't have a competitive window, that their window is wide open for the foreseeable future because of all the drafting, everything coming through the pipeline. That's the whole point of this rebuild. Not for another 5-year stretch like 2012 to 2016. It's for a 25-year stretch. It's for what we're seeing with the Astros and what we've seen with the Yankees.
I don't disagree. I think the reality of that's a little bit more difficult to keep it competitive every single year because of how good the division is. And that's simple. That's just the simple fact of the Yankees are great. The Blue Jays are great. The Rays are great, and the Red Sox are great. So that's the really tough part about it. But
look, if that 2012 to 2016 Orioles team could win more games than all those teams,
sure,
it can happen again.
But I would argue that those teams right now are better than when the Orioles were going into that stretch in 2012.
Yeah,
but the Yankees had just won a World Series not that long ago. But
the Yankees are a third-place team. Actually, they might be a fourth-place team in this division as they're currently constructed. Now, if they go out and they sign Carlos Correa and then they get, I don't know, whoever the best starting pitcher on the market is, that changes. They need help in their rotation, they need help in their bullpen, and they need guys who aren't beer league softball players in their lineup. But no, when I look at the Orioles, and that's the whole point of building this farm system and getting the international prospects, the Dominican Academy, the whole point of all of that is so that not everybody's going to be here their entire career.
Right.
You know that. So if Colton Cowser comes here and he plays here for 5 years and he's one of the best outfielders in baseball, and then he gets 30, 40 million on the free agent market a year, okay, he's gone. The next guy in the system, come on up. And now it's your turn. It's Hudson Haskins' turn or something like that. Now, that would be less than 5 years from now, but you get my overall point here. Yeah. That's how you stay competitive. So you're not spending on 8 players every year. You're spending on 1 or 2 free agents every other year.
And letting the farm system take care of the rest.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely what they're most likely the avenue they're going to take. But I will say this, too. I think that as far as acquiring pitching, I think trades will be more common than free agency. I think that it's going to be way easier, especially with the pipeline the way it is.
Yeah, but look, like I said, adapt or die. You're going to have to find a way to spend money, or you're not going to do anything.
I mean, they're going to have to sign probably 1 per year, maybe 2 per year. Quality starting pitchers, not Jordan Lyles. Quality starting pitchers.
Well, and Jordan Lyles, I think, can be a 5th starter in any rotation.
Yeah, probably.
If he's gonna give you, if 2 out of every 3 starts is pretty damn good, and he's gonna give you 180 innings, that's a quality 4th or 5th starter.
But if you're signing guys to 1-year deal, then it's gonna have to be 1 or 2 at least.
Yeah, and I don't think that they're gonna have to go out every year. Now, look, if you go out,
no, I'm sure they'll get some 3.
If you go out next year and the top 3 in your the top 4 in your rotation are John Means, Grayson Rodriguez, D.L. Hall, and Michael Baumann. Okay, you need to go get. I mean, you're probably going to sign a guy who can be a spot, maybe a Jordan Lyles type of pitcher, and then maybe you go out and you sign, I don't know, just spitballing, Justin Verlander. Although I think he did just sign a 2-year, $52 million deal with the Astros.
Yeah.
But you go out and you sign one of those guys, and then you have all those guys in your rotation for a few years, and then after that few years, you go out and you sign somebody else. So look, I don't run an organization. I wouldn't be sitting here doing this show today if I had the quality of mind to be a general manager. But that's kind of what they outlined in this plan is, we'll add the pieces that we need to. I don't think it's going to be an every year thing. It might be an every other year, every 3 years type of thing where they need to add somebody. But the whole point is to get good and stay good. And I think the Orioles are on track there.
Definitely.
Now, Adley Rutschman, man, we were talking about it. How do you look at Adley Rutschman if he becomes, instead of becoming Buster Posey or Joe Mauer, he becomes Matt Wieters?
That's still a great career.
Yeah,
I look at that as a win.
But people look at it as a failure. People look at Matt Wieters, and because he didn't,
that's
become
just not the right way to look at it. Though
it's not.
It's not the right way.
I don't think it's a failure. Matt Wieters was a four-time All-Star and a 3-time Gold Glover here.
I mean,
and the Orioles pitching was far better when he was here, and plays at the plate. He called everything.
I mean, I was gonna say, if you're looking at Matt Wieters and his time here in Baltimore. He was definitely a success. He wasn't the guy that people thought he was, but in the reality, most prospects aren't the guy people think they are.
Matt Wieters is a top 3 catcher all time in Orioles history.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
it's him, it's Chris Hoyles, and it's Jim Gentile.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Yeah, and all apologies to Rick Dempsey.
And Surhoff is maybe in that conversation.
Surhoff wasn't a catcher.
Was he?
No.
Am I wrong on that?
Surhoff caught for the Brewers at the beginning of his career.
I was going to say, I swear he caught for the Orioles.
No, I think he may have gotten.
I wasn't alive during the time.
I think
so.
he may have gotten a game or two, but he mostly played third base and left field.
Because I had a baseball card of B.J. Surhoff
in catcher's gear for the Brewers.
And he was in catcher's gear for the Orioles, is what I remember.
He may have done it in spring training. I know that he was their emergency catcher, and I think he was drafted as a catcher. He was the first overall pick in the draft when he got drafted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I loved B.J. Surhoff. He was awesome.
Well, clearly I don't love him enough because I got his position wrong. But I always remember B.J. Surhoff as a catcher. I don't know why. Maybe
he did it. He came up as a catcher, but with the Orioles, he was primarily third base and left field.
And I know he was doing some catching instruction for them for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of their minor league catching instructors. Like he was roving because when I worked at Aberdeen, he would a lot of times be there and helping out these guys catching wise. So
he got drafted as a catcher. You don't get drafted as a catcher if you don't know how to do it.
All right, so B.J. Surhoff, not a top 3 catcher in Orioles history, but and you can maybe even throw Dempsey somewhere in that conversation.
He's
top 10,
he's
top
4.
5.
He's definitely a top 5 because of what he did in the World Series MVP and all that. But you can make the argument that the best catcher in Orioles history is Chris Hoyles.
Oh, he is.
Offensively, he was 25 homers a year.
Yeah.
I mean, he had.
There's no question in my mind. He definitely is the best.
Yeah, and then like I said, Jim Gentile, he's right there with him. Had a few big years for the Orioles, and then but the whole point was Matt Wieters.
Yeah,
Adley Rutschman. He's being hyped to be one of the greatest players in the history of the franchise.
Right.
That's the way he's being hyped, and it's a little unfair to him. It's a lot of pressure on him. Do I think he's going to come up and hit 300 his first year? Absolutely not.
Right.
But I think that he's capable of hitting 260, 270, and dropping about 20 this season.
100%.
No reason, in my opinion, for him to not start on opening day.
He should be. He should be there. And again, if he turns into Wieters, just to finish my point there, that means he's a great defender. And the guy is winning Gold Gloves behind the plate, and he's going to hit at a reasonable rate, not the MVP slugger that everyone expects, but he'll hit at a reasonable rate.
If he's Matt Wieters, he's not an MVP, but he's an all-star Gold Glove catcher who hits about 250.
It's a good player. Yeah. And that's that. The Orioles, I'm telling you, would view that as a win. I guarantee they would view that as a win.
And you look at the catchers around baseball, most of them don't do that. You have like 3 catchers in baseball that can hit like that. So it's and when we had Kevin Goldstein on the show the other day, that's basically what he said. He said, look, if he doesn't become the Messiah, if he's just Matt Wieters, that's not a fail.
Not at all.
Because not one player doesn't save your franchise.
Right.
He's not the guy that's going to save your franchise. He's just going to be a big piece of it.
Yeah.
So if he becomes Matt Wieters and everybody else around him does what you expect him to do, that's a damn good catcher who still hits probably 6th in your order.
See, if Adley Rutschman came up and he was a bad baseball player and he was, hitting his on-base percentage was 285 and he was hitting a 154, then that's a failure to me.
Yeah.
He made the majors, but that's a failure. He's a number 1 overall pick. That's a little different than a guy like DJ Stewart to me, I guess. But my first round pick, I guess, opinion is a little bit different than a number 1 overall pick because that's just there's a big difference there between a guy who's drafted 25th overall like Stewart and a guy who's drafted number 1 overall like Rutschman. So yeah, if he made the majors and he was nothing, he'd be a failure. But if he's Matt Wieters, that is far from a failure. That is a good quality player. That's a maybe 3-4 WAR player a year. I don't know what Wieters was in his prime. I'd have to look that up. But I'm assuming he was
he's
around.
probably about a 3 or 4 win
player.
Yeah,
maybe 2.5 in his bad years.
Yeah, but it was mostly his defense.
Right, definitely.
Is what kept him up there. I'll tell you, some other guys I'm really interested in seeing is these first basemen. And we're talking about Mundy and Dashbach. And who's the other guy?
T.T. Bowens.
T.T. Bowens. I for some reason, I know there's a T in there. I can never remember his name. These are some guys that, because let's be honest, Ryan Mountcastle probably isn't your future first baseman. That's a guy that you're going to hit fourth in your lineup,
DH.
and he's going to
Yeah.
DH and just drop bombs. Except they built a wall. But Dashbach has the defense. Mundy was one of their better hitters before he ended the season injured. T.T. Bowens, a lot of people are really high on him. I want to see if somebody can really separate themselves from the crowd this year at first base and give the Orioles an option. Patrick Dorian is another guy for third base, and maybe he can play a little first base too, because he's close to the majors, and I really want to see what he can do, see if he can build upon a strong Double-A season. And then Kyle Stowers, because, look, the season that he put up last year was phenomenal, but all you hear is he has a lot of swing and miss
Yeah, a lot of strikeouts.
in his swing.
Massive uppercut.
So nobody really is talking about him right now. I want to see if this guy can prove that last year wasn't a fluke, that he can put up the same numbers at AAA and get himself to Baltimore by June, July, and prove that he belongs here.
I think earlier than that. I think he's going to be here by May.
You think so?
I think Stowers is a quick call up because I think it's going to be lack of better options there. Because you've got guys like DJ Stewart on your roster right now that you need to trim off the roster at some point.
I don't think DJ Stewart makes the opening day roster.
Oh, I hope not.
I
hope not.
I don't think he does. I think that
I don't know what he's done to deserve that.
Like Ryan McKenna has a better chance.
No, I'm not a big fan of there either. But
I'm not a big fan there either. But he's a ball player. When he goes, anytime that he got sent back down to the minors, he hit.
He did.
He hit really well, and the defense is so phenomenal with that new a bigger park now.
Yeah,
you're gonna have Hayes in right field, McKenna in left, and Mullins in center to run some of these balls down. That's what I'm looking forward to. Offensively, I'd like to see a little bit more, but it's up to McKenna to. I like him better than I like Joey Rickard.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like it's up to McKenna to go out there and prove that the bat can play at this level because the glove, the speed, the defense, they're major league ready. The bat, not quite there, but he could do a lot for himself this year.
Definitely. And one thing on Dashbach real quick. I'm not a big fan of him just based on what I've seen.
Great interview.
He is a great interview. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I don't really see the bat playing at the majors at this point. But Mundy, I do really like Mundy. And T.T. Bowens is a guy, undrafted, but probably would have been a 6th, 7th round pick if they hadn't had 5 rounds in 2020. He's a guy that could definitely be a piece in the near future.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Hey, good segment.
It was a good segment. Very good segment.
Good segment. Now, I just want to remind you guys again that today's show is brought to you by the CIAA Tournament. Today's Championship Saturday at the CIAA Tournament. It's an event that has become a celebration of family, culture, and accomplishments to uplift and strengthen the African-American community. See the excitement of the title games in person as some of the best college basketball goes down at Baltimore's Royal Farms Arena with the CIAA Men's and Women's Conference Tournament Championship games today. They're probably going on already.
Yeah.
Get your tickets now at CIAAtournament.org. That's CIAAtournament.org. We got to catch our final break. When we come back in, Zach's got some trivia for me to close things out on the Bet Around.
Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
After being virtual in 2021, the CIAA Men's and Women's Basketball Tournament is headed to Charm City this February 22nd through 26th. The CIAA is an event that has become a celebration of family, culture, and accomplishments that uplift and strengthen the African American community. See the excitement in person as some of the best college basketball in the country comes to Baltimore's Royal Farms Arena with the CIAA Men's and Women's Conference Tournament. Get your tickets now at CIAAtournament.org. That's CIAAtournament.org.
The biggest pro wrestling stars today and all time all have one thing in common. You've heard them on Jobbing Out.
Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
The great Kurt Angle.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Matt Riddle.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
The champ, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, thank you for having me.
The great Ron Simmons.
Damn.
Keith Lee.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Bill Goldberg.
My pleasure.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mick Foley is with us.
This is the greatest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
MJF.
I'm glad you're happy I'm on this show because I'm freaking miserable.
Le
champion.
Chris Jericho.
Le champion.
AJ, Aaron, Brandon, and Glenn are talking pro wrestling every week on Jobbing Out. Find it at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
It's TBA music.
That's true. It's now the bat-around. It's
bat-around
now the
music.
bat-around. We just looked it up. BJ Surhoff never played a game as a catcher for the Orioles.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
He called over 100 games like 6 years in a
Yeah.
row for the Brewers, but by the time he got to the Orioles, he was kind of done with catching. Played 316 games at third base for the Orioles, played in the left field a lot, but never a catcher.
You sometimes wonder how these things make it in your mind that he caught for the Orioles. I don't know. I just always remember that.
If
for
you
him.
look, well, the first 6 years of his career, he was a catcher.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
like a 90 to 127 game catcher.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah.
And if you, I think his first baseball card, he is wearing catcher's gear with the Brewers. So he was drafted #1 overall as a catcher. Sometimes you change positions. Bryce Harper was drafted #1 overall as a catcher.
Yeah.
And now he plays right field.
Yep.
You know, so that's just something that
I always thought Bryce
happens.
Harper should have been a center fielder. I don't know why. I always thought he had the arm for it. He had the range for it. I mean, he's a really good outfielder for the most part.
He is. It's not a popular opinion around these parts, but I love Bryce Harper.
Oh, me too.
I love
Bryce
I'm
Harper.
a big Bryce.
Yeah.
The flack that he gets from people, like all that dude does is hit 280.
Yeah.
Drop 30 bombs, close to 100 RBIs, and get on base at a near 500 clip.
Yeah.
Like maybe not near 500, but well over 400 clip. Yeah. The guy is he's on track to be a Hall of Fame player.
Right.
And I remember when he was in his first year, they had this black and white Legends of the Game commercial on MLB Network, and Bryce Harper was prominent in it. I'm like, let's not anoint this guy. He's still in his first year, and now he's on a Hall of Fame track.
Well, that's when ESPN put him in the top 100 as the 94th best player of all time, and I was like, really? I don't know.
That was this year.
That was this year,
yeah.
and I think that was a little bit overzealous, if that's the word for it.
Maybe they're projecting.
Maybe
when his career is all said and done.
Oh, definitely top 100.
He's going to be probably a top 50 player.
Yeah, I would agree.
Of all time. His own base percentage is going to be up there. Yeah. The home runs, you have 400, 500 home runs.
I mean, his 2015 season is arguably a top 5 season of all time.
Oh, it was absolutely incredible.
Unbelievable.
And then he went out this year. And how many 2-time MVPs do you know that aren't in the top 100? I mean, the guy's a phenomenal. And
I love Bryce Harper.
He's a gamer, man. I used to not like him, and it was easy to not like him when he first came up because that's a clown question, bro. And, I'm gonna run face first into a wall, and I'm gonna swing my bat onto a brick wall and have it bounce back, hit me in the face, and knock me out for a few games.
Yeah.
But he is a damn good. He's a player that any team should want on their team.
In high school, I always tried to model my swing after his. I even had his cleats and everything. I was a big Bryce Harper guy.
Man, with the front right foot turned almost completely in, and man,
his swing is beautiful.
Oh, he's got a gorgeous swing. When that dude
huge load and just explodes.
Anytime I look at like when we would do the payoff pitch around the league once the season gets going, anytime that I would look up scores and I saw that Bryce Harper hit a home run, I'd have to take some time out and watch the home run because his swing when he connects is so freaking beautiful. It's so beautiful. And that's honestly, that's how I feel about Kobe Mayo. I remember the first time I saw him hit a home run, the swing that he put on that ball was a thing of beauty. It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, ooh, that guy's swing is too pretty for him not to be a success. But all right, Zach, time for some trivia here. All the reads are done, right?
Yep. Actually, no, we have Glenn Clark Radio to go.
Oh, you didn't do that coming out of the break?
I did not, no.
Oh, let's
All
do
right,
that
so
now.
Press Box's Glenn Clark Radio is the definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports. Watch the show every weekday from 10 to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys caught up with Giants outfielder and Baltimore native, former Terp Lamont Wade, legendary former Maryland coach Gary Williams, and even hip-hop legend DJ Cool, the man responsible for Let Me Clear My Throat. Find those interviews and more. Find those interviews and more in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature right now at PressBoxOnline.com. I didn't get enough air before I said that line, and I was just trying to finish it out before I got more air. So, yeah, that was not the best read, but there we go.
Whatever, man. Who cares?
Glenn Clark Radio.
Glenn Clark Radio.
Go watch it.
Yours
Paul
truly.
Valley, yeah.
All right, so what do you got for me with trivia today?
All right, a little bit of an easier one. Since I was hard on you a few times, I'm going to make this one, it's kind of like a softball question. But we know Nolan Ryan has thrown 7 no-hitters. I love Nolan Ryan. We talked about Nolan Ryan because I can't stop talking about this guy. We love him. But can you name the other guys that have thrown 3 or more no-hitters? And I'm going to give you one because you'll never get him, and nobody even knows who this guy is. Larry Corcoran from 1884. But the other guys on this list.
This isn't a softball. I have no
Really?
idea. I have no idea.
Well, all these guys, you know who they are.
Tom Seaver.
Tom Seaver is not on the list.
Sandy Koufax.
Sandy Koufax is number 2. He has 4. He threw one September 9th, 1965, June 4th, 1964, May 11th, 1963, and June 30th, 1962. So he threw one for 4 years in a row, which is
4 straight
wild.
years no-hitter is absolutely insane.
Insane.
How many people are on this list?
There are 3 more.
3 more. So there's Nolan Ryan, there's Sandy Koufax.
And they've all thrown 3 no-hitters, these next 3 guys.
Don Larson.
No. If you need hints, I can start giving them later.
Tug McGraw.
No.
Don't give me a hint yet.
Okay.
3 no-hitters. Didn't Mike Hampton throw a couple?
He might have, but he's not here. Not for 3. He might have thrown 2. I think he actually did throw 2. I think you're right on that.
Tim Lincecum threw 2.
Yeah, but he's not. He did not throw 3.
He's not on the list. Palmer only threw 1. I'm pretty sure. I know he's not.
Yeah,
on the
I believe
list.
you're right.
All right, give me a team.
Okay. See, some of them did it on different teams, but I'll give you Houston.
Houston. Like modern, like recently?
It's modern.
It's modern for Houston. No, it's not. No. Oh, dude, I have no idea. Verlander. That's right.
Verlander's thrown 3.
Verlander's thrown 3, and then there's 2 more guys?
2019, 2011, and 2007.
Yeah,
2 with Detroit, 1 with Houston. 2 other guys.
Verlander's definitely thrown 3. I think Scherzer's thrown 2.
So I'll give you the other 2 teams. Well, actually, there's technically 3, but one of them doesn't exist anymore, which should help you out a little bit. But we have Cleveland as one of the teams, and then Boston as the other team.
Cleveland and Boston. It's not Pedro. I don't even know that Pedro threw 1.
I actually don't know.
I don't think he did.
I'm looking down this list. I don't see him.
Roger
so far.
Clemens?
Not Roger Clemens.
Dennis Eckersley.
No. Good guess, though. Both these guys are not modern.
Both these guys. I have no idea.
Okay. You want me to tell you?
Yeah.
So Cy Young threw 3.
Duh.
2 with Boston, and then 1 with CLV, which I'm not entirely sure what that stands for. It might be Cleveland, maybe the Spiders. Was that?
Yeah, I think it
might have been the Cleveland Spiders. And then Bob Feller threw 3 as well.
But I could have guessed both.
In the 1940s and 50s, all with Cleveland. Feller threw all of them, which is weird, 6 years apart, which is kind of odd.
That's
actually
that's a weird feller.
I can't count because that was 5 years apart. Actually,
that's a weird feller right there.
Yeah, he was a great pitcher though. Great pitcher.
So yeah, I could have gotten Bob Feller. I could have gotten Cy Young. Cy Young never pops into my mind, but he's like the most important pitcher of all time.
Larry Corcoran, I don't think you were gonna get 1880s.
Yeah, I think I've heard
Chicago.
Of him. I think I've heard of him, but yeah, no, you're absolutely.
Some of these guys who've thrown 2 though are kind of surprising. Like I'm looking through this list. You got Homer Bailey. He threw 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that.
Dallas Braden threw 1 or 2. Dallas Braden threw a perfect.
Dallas Braden threw on Mother's Day. Yeah. Ken Holtzman. Did not know that.
Do you remember wasn't it
Bill Stoneman?
when didn't Jeremy Guthrie have a no-hitter into the 9th inning on the Mother's Day
I think he
Massacre,
did,
and then,
yeah.
and then the Orioles gave up 6 runs. They were up 5-0, gave up 6 runs.
Sounds
lost
like the
6-5.
Orioles.
Or Keegan Aiken taking a no-hitter into the
Yeah.
7th inning of a 7-inning doubleheader, and then the Orioles, and they're up 2-0.
Keegan Aiken might have been possessed during that game.
And they lost 11-2 because they gave up 11 runs. And God, talk about one of the. And the thing is, I'd rather be mad about that than be mad about what we're mad about right now.
True.
2 times Tyler Wells giving up 4 runs in the 9th with a 10-6 lead over the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
And the Orioles having a no-hitter in the final inning and giving up 11 runs. I'd
Yeah.
rather see that than nothing at all.
I got a bonus for you real quick. Want to do a bonus trivia?
Sure.
All right, who was the guy to throw 2 consecutive no-hitters?
Oh, my God.
I think I actually might have talked about this on the show before at one point.
Don
but
McLean.
It wasn't Don McLean.
I don't know.
It was Johnny Vandermeer
Johnny
with
Vandermeer.
Cincinnati in 1938.
That's like the thing he's most famous for.
Yeah, that's like all
And
he's famous for.
I never remember his name. No, that was good trivia, man. What
Awesome.
you thought it was a softball, but it truly was.
Maybe I thought because they were big names, but they weren't exactly. I mean, there's so many pitchers that have pitched. I mean,
Yeah.
Randy Johnson is a guy that immediately would have come to my mind.
He's
but
thrown like 2.
He threw 2, yeah. But guys like that, I mean, there's so many.
Mike Mussina took a perfect game and a no-hitter into the 9th inning like 3 or 4 times and never got one. So
I'm kind of speaking down on Johnny Vandermeer. He had a better career than I thought he did.
Scott Erickson threw a no-hitter.
Okay, I did not know that.
He threw a no-hitter with the. I'm pretty sure he threw a no-hitter with the Twins.
I mean, you know who Virgil Trucks is?
No.
Allie Reynolds?
No.
Dutch Leonard?
No.
Addy Joss? I mean, all these guys have thrown 2 no-hitters. I don't know who any of these guys are,
Yeah.
but they're all like 50s and then.
Well, you
below.
also have to look. Like I was looking at pitcher stats.
Mhm.
And I was looking at, and like last night, I was looking at who's hit the most triples in their career, and
That's almost impossible to get.
The number is like
trivia-wise.
306 because, like Curtis Granderson in 2007 had 23 triples in a season, but the most in the season was like
Ty Cobb, right?
Ty Cobb's up there, but the most in the season was like 36. But all the top guys played in the late 1800s when they didn't have fences, so they just hit the ball.
Oh,
and ran.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So Babe Ruth one year hit like 17 triples.
I got a quick question for you. I was thinking about this before when you were talking with Eric about the wall. How much do you think that wall will impact triples? Do you think that's a possible option for that?
It's hard to say. I think you'll see more triples. How much more? You don't really know because
Yeah.
you don't generally see triples to left field.
My only thing, could the ball get like stuck under there somehow? I don't
Well,
know.
if it gets stuck under there, you put your hands up.
Well, yeah, that's
and
true.
then it's an
Yeah.
automatic double. But like if somebody hits the ball and you have your left fielder coming one way and your center fielder coming another, and it hits right on that corner of that 90-degree thing and then bounces back this way,
Right.
that's going to be a triple. But
Yeah.
I don't think that you're going to see triples on balls to the gap in left center unless it's a guy like Jorge Mateo, who happens to play for the Orioles.
Yeah.
Cedric Mullins, I think, might get an extra triple or 2 out of it.
Definitely.
But
Mullins
honestly,
is the first guy that came to my mind.
It's
yeah.
one of those things where the ball's going to have to take a wonky bounce and go back the other way and make the left fielder have to turn around. That's the only way you're getting triples, extra triples. I still think you'll see more, but I don't think it's going to be as drastic as people think because it's left field. Now, if they made this change in right field, you'd see 20 more triples.
100%, yeah.
You know, but
well, it's like the Giants Stadium out there in California with the massive gap in right field where it's just triple. They call it triples alley, and it's just, I mean, it's easy to hit a triple there. And
Houston or Arizona.
Houston's another good example.
Arizona's and right center field in Boston.
Yeah, that's a deep one. That's
on MLB The Show. I like to play a lot of games at the Polo Grounds because it's so deep to the gaps.
It's like 500 to dead center.
Yeah, it's so deep that if you hit a ball in the gap, it's an inside the park home run. I just think that's fun.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Guys, thanks for turned out to be a really fun show.
It did.
I got to be honest. I love doing the show. I love talking baseball. I've said it all show long. I don't love talking CBA. I'm like so done with it.
Yeah, I'm completely done.
But we do this show, and it's not easy to talk about baseball when there's no baseball going on. But we try it, and we get through it, and more often than not, it's a really fun show. Today was a really fun show.
It was.
I really enjoyed myself. Eric was a great guest. Special thanks to him. Special thanks to Stan the Fan for his weekly segment. And I know that Stan can get tired of answering the same questions until something gets done.
We got no choice, unfortunately.
We really have no choice. But, guys, thanks so much for tuning into the Batter Round. We couldn't do it without you, our listeners and our viewers. I will not be here next week. I'll be playing some baseball of my own in the warm Florida weather. Thank you, sir. But Zach will be here. Ryan Blake will be sitting in the captain's chair filling in for me. I'll be back in 2 weeks. So until